Chapter 36 Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy Skill, Comprehending Divine Skills. After Leah left, Guin devoted himself to building Mystic Valley, and his leisurely days started to diminish because those young demon sheep were quite troublesome. At 4 months old, they ran through the mountains and forests as if they were flat ground, as fast as cheetahs on Earth in his previous life. If not for the presence of cultivators in the valley, they would have long escaped. Guin had to study the Ziwei array chronicles left by Jiang Qiong, learning some basic restrictions to seal the sheepfold. When the 6-month period was up, Guin had Wuxin bring Xiaochuan to the outer sect to recruit 2 more servant disciples, named Qin Hong and Zhen Shaoer, with mediocre aptitude, which satisfied him. The number of servant disciples in Mystic Valley reached 10, making it lively every day. Time flies like an arrow. It passes in the blink of an eye, never to return. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. It was autumn again. Xiaochuan was patrolling the various gardens, followed by a line of ducks, moving in a mighty formation. Disciples sat absorbing spiritual energy on the mountaintops around Medicine Valley, and the forest would occasionally shake from the movement of Tang Yu and Su Han chasing demon sheep. Guin walked out of the western forest, smiling. He had just picked a batch of medicinal herbs, earning himself several centuries of life. He was increasingly close to 10,000 years of lifespan. His lifespan had now reached 80,000 years. In 3 years, he had gained nearly 50,000 years of life, mainly because the herbs he had planted for many years were maturing, and 1,000 years of life were from managing exterior disciples' caves. The small-framed Jinqin ran out of the forest with a bamboo basket on her back. She hurried to Guin's side and said, "Master, can you teach me alchemy today?" A dry leaf was still on her head, and the hair on the sides of her cheeks was a bit disheveled. Guin chuckled, "Of course, but you have to use your herbs. That way you'll be more careful." Once, Zhenqin overheard Guin consuming a youth-preserving pill, making her interested in alchemy. She pestered him for nearly half a year. "I've been prepared for a long time," Zhenqin said excitedly, hopping around Guin like a girl who never grows up. Whoosh, a sound pierced the air above Mystic Valley. Guin looked up and habitually cast a lifespan detection. Another nascent soul realm cultivator. This year, more than 10 nascent soul realm cultivators had passed above Mystic Valley, which made Guin uneasy, feeling something big was about to happen. Even the world's outer sect conference back then didn't attract so many nascent soul realm cultivators. This won't do. The dragon strength divine origin skill must be improved. If a great cultivator far surpassing the nascent soul realm appears, what will I do if they see through my cultivation level? Guin decided silently. Over the years, the dragon strength divine origin skill's enhancement to lifespan had dwindled, and now gaining a year's lifespan in half a year was a good outcome. In 10 years, this skill might no longer increase his lifespan. Then, Guin took Zhenqin back to his pavilion to start teaching her alchemy techniques. Until late at night, Guin sneaked into the 8 Sina caves. After Jiang Qiong left, he had also explored the other 6 tunnels, and at the end of each, there were corpses like Meng Lang, refined by Cheng Xiandan and Jiang Qiong using different poison skills of myriad poison mystic skill. For these poison corpses, Guin temporarily had no intention of touching them. He made his way to the green vine tree, rolled up his sleeves, and began meditating. At this moment, a shadow fell from the tree and burrowed into his arms. A little black dragon. Its body was slender, about 2 feet long, with a pair of dragon horns and dragon whiskers on its mouth, covered in tiny black dragon scales, and its 4 claws were sharp. It looked much like the dragons in ancient Huaxia legends, but with a different color. This was the holy beast of the ancient sky sect, the sky dragon. Guin stroked it while checking its lifespan. Sky Dragon, First Order 1/965/18,000. Its lifespan has increased again. When the Sky Dragon was born, it had only 500 years of lifespan. Now, in just 1 year, its lifespan had almost doubled. No wonder it had the potential of a 9th-rank demon beast. Guin recalled the process of the Sky Dragon acknowledging him as master last year, smiling unconsciously. When it was just born, the Sky Dragon bit him directly, causing him to angrily throw it away, and then it pitifully came over to nuzzle him. Guwen felt the sky dragon didn't really acknowledge him as its master but rather recognized who its kin was through blood. They had a bond of soul resonance, allowing him to understand its thoughts but not controlling its life and death directly. The sky dragon would only serve one master in its life, indicating that although it was naturally violent, it was also extremely loyal and righteous. "Good boy, go eat now." Guwen took out a demon sheep he had killed from his storage bag. It was fresh from the previous morning, giving him 3 years of lifespan. The sky dragon's eyes lit up and immediately flew aside with the demon sheep's corpse. The demon sheep's corpse was several times larger than the sky dragon, but it seemed weightless in its dragon claws. Guwen called up the attribute panel and focused on the cultivation techniques section, investing 2,000 years of lifespan into the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill. The Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill could hide his cultivation level and aura, which was crucial. He considered it even more important than the Divine Wood Pure Yang skill. You invested 2,000 years of lifespan in the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for evolutionary cultivation. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 10 years. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth tempered your body, enhancing your physical chi blood. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 100 years. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth tempered your body, enhancing your physical chi blood. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 200 years, achieving the peak creation realm in your Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 400 years, one day grasping the true meaning of earth. Your Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill returned to simplicity and upgraded to the Earth Lineage Emperor Energy skill. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 1,500 years, sensing the rules of the Earth. Your Earth Lineage Emperor Energy skill broke through the limits, upgraded to the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 1,800 years, enhancing your understanding of the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill, achieving mastery. You cultivated the Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill for 2,000 years, achieving peak creation realm understanding of the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill, comprehending the divine skill, Mystic Yellow Dragon Might. Line after line of prompts appeared before Guwen's eyes. The Dragon Strength Divine Origin skill upgraded to Earth Lineage Emperor Energy skill and then to Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill. It even awakened a divine skill. Guwen was overjoyed, feeling lucky this time. A vast amount of memory quickly flooded into his mind, immersing him in the profound Daoist sorcery knowledge. The sky dragon, biting the mutton, looked back with its gem-like eyes showing curiosity. The grass on the ground beneath Guwen emitted strands of green energy, swirling around him as he began to breathe rhythmically unconsciously, with faint dragon roars echoing. The Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill tempered the body with the Earth's essence of yellow energy, integrating the physical body with nature. The so-called dragon roar was actually the sound of the Earth's roar. After 2 full ancient hours, Guwen finally woke up. He frowned as he opened his eyes. All the grass around him had withered. He quickly got up and scanned the medicinal herbs in the 8 scenic caves, only relaxing after confirming they were fine. Only the weeds withered. The spirit flowers and grasses were largely unaffected. In the future, I must not do this recklessly. Whether it's upgrading a cultivation technique or breaking through, I must leave the 8 scenic caves to avoid depleting the spiritual energy here. Guwen sat back down, reviewing the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill while cultivating according to the method. He consolidated a breath of Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy, integrating his body with nature. The sky dragon, now full, lay beside the demon sheep's corpse, sleeping. Inside the 8 scenic caves, only the sound of the wind remained. At dawn, Guwen descended from his pavilion, changing into a green robe, his black hair casually tied at the back, with 2 long strands left by his ears, exuding an ethereal, unworldly aura of a cultivator. His body had not fully adapted to the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill yet, but he wasn't in a hurry. With nightly practice, he would master the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy within a month. And with the Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy skill's divine trait, mystic yellow dragon might, there was no need for separate cultivation. It would naturally manifest when the mystic yellow dragon energy was produced. Mystic yellow dragon might was essentially the might of heaven and earth, able to deter all beings. Guwen started calling for the disciples to do exercises. When everyone gathered, they could all sense Guwen was in a good mood today. Zhenqin curiously asked her master what had made him so happy. Nothing much. I read a book last night called The Investiture of the Gods. You can borrow it from the book collection pavilion when you have time, Guwen said, smiling as he exercised. Xiaochuan's eyes lit up. I know about the Investiture of the Gods. Almost everyone in the outer sect has a copy. It's said to record ancient mysteries of the immortal cultivation world. The disciples became interested and began asking Xiaochuan what the Investiture of the Gods was about. Guwen didn't interject further, still dwelling on the mystic yellow dragon energy skill. Over the next month, he practiced the mystic yellow dragon energy skill nightly and finally succeeded in cultivating a breath of mystic yellow dragon energy in his abdomen, significantly advancing his ability to conceal his cultivation level and aura. Guwen felt a huge relief, knowing he could now stay hidden peacefully. That year was as uneventful as the previous years, which was the best outcome for Guwen. As the winter snow began to melt, Mystic Valley welcomed a new spring, and all disciples prepared for the new year. Guwen was deeply engrossed in reading the Green Hero Travelogue under a tree. Zhenqin suddenly approached, with her hands behind her back, bending over to ask, "Master, what do you want to eat tomorrow night? I'll make it for you." Without moving his gaze, Guwen replied, "Anything you make, I'll eat." Curious, Zhenqin leaned over to see what book he was reading, but he stopped her. "Hurry up and prepare the ingredients, or you'll miss the festival tomorrow night. Be careful or I won't teach you alchemy," Guwen said sternly. Zhenqin pouted but had to leave. Guwen faintly heard her muttering, again reading that nonsensical book. The corner of his mouth twitched. Just who spread this rumor? Ruining his reputation. Now all the disciples in Medicine Valley knew he liked reading the Green Hero Travelogue, often mocking him in private despite not daring to say it to his face. Guwen stood up, putting the Green Hero Travelogue into his arms. "Starting today, I'm quitting." Guwen walked out of the courtyard, planning to inspect the garden, but his attention was caught by the valley entrance, making him frown. A man in a white robe walked gracefully, appearing in his 30s, looking handsome with an extraordinary demeanor. What made Guwen frown was that he couldn't sense the man's aura. He immediately cast a lifespan detection on him. Li Xiandao, Divinity Transformation Realm, 8th Layer 230/899/3020. Chapter 37 The Emperor's Recruitment. A maximum lifespan of 3,000 years? Guwen was shocked by the other party's lifespan information. It was the first time he encountered someone with such a qualification, and at the 8th layer of the Divinity Transformation Realm. However, this lifespan seemed a bit low and did not align with Guwen's expectations for the lifespan in the Divinity Transformation Realm. Could it be that someone in the Divinity Transformation Realm could only live for 899 years? Guwen guessed that the other party might have been injured, thereby reducing their lifespan. He immediately walked over, while also pondering internally, thinking that the other party might be a high-ranking member of the Supreme Sect. However, he couldn't act too respectfully, given that the other party had suppressed their aura. If he could see through the other party's cultivation level, the other party would undoubtedly pester him endlessly and might even treat him as a demon path spy. Li Xiandao walked towards the valley, observing the garden along the way. Guwen approached him, cupping his hands in salute, and asked, "I am Guwen, the Valley Master of Mystic Valley. May I ask for your name and your purpose here?" Li Xuando's gaze fell on Guwen, his eyes cold and exuding immense pressure. He then smiled, and the oppressive feeling instantly dissipated, giving an illusionary sense as he warmly said, "I am Xiandao from Cangzhou. I came to visit my child at the Supreme Sect. The journey is long and tiring. I wish to rest in your esteemed valley to recover my spiritual power. May I ask if the Valley Master would permit this?" Hearing this, Guwen couldn't refuse and immediately agreed, then called Xiao Chuan to arrange accommodation for Li Xiandao. Gu In avoided looking directly at Li Xiandao to prevent arousing suspicion. Surname Li, visiting his child, could he be an imperial family member? Gu In wondered secretly. With so many medicine valleys in the outer sect, he chose Mystic Valley. It's highly likely related to Li Ya. Gu In continued patrolling the garden, everything as usual. On the other side, Xiao Chuan led Li Xiandao to an unoccupied house and said, "The house is simple. Please don't mind. If you need anything, feel free to ask me or any other disciples." Li Xiandao nodded and then asked, "I saw sheep in the woods along the way, and disciples taking care of them. Aren't you a medicine valley? Why raise so many sheep?" Xiao Chuan didn't hide anything and answered, "Originally, we only planted medicinal herbs in the valley, but my spirit root qualification is limited, so I gave up the idea of joining the outer sect. Knowing that I like raising livestock, senior brother fulfilled my wish, and also earned some spirit stones to help more disciples in their cultivation earlier, before heading to the outer sect." "Oh? Is the senior brother the valley master?" "Yes. He is truly a good person considering you all this way. Indeed, my senior brother is the best person in the world." Hearing Li Zuando's praise, Xiao Chuan was delighted and began to praise Gu In enthusiastically. This made Li Xiandao more interested in Gu In, asking more about his deeds. Xiao Chuan didn't think much and dragged Li Xiandao to sit down, becoming even more animated in his storytelling. Gu In, inspecting the garden, smiled and thought he hadn't cared for this silly boy for nothing. Whether Li Xiandao was related to Li Ya or a high-ranking member of the Supreme Sect, having a good image could do no harm. He certainly couldn't be from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, could he? Wait, Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Suddenly, Gu In felt a chill down his spine, his smile froze. Better safe than sorry. Facing Li Xiandao later, he must be more cautious. It's better to be safe than sorry. Li Zuando's presence aroused the curiosity of other disciples, as rarely did anyone visit Mystic Valley. That day, after settling in, Li Xiandao didn't come out again, seemingly really recovering his spiritual energy. Because of Li Zuando's arrival, Gu In didn't dare to go to the 8 scenic caves and stayed honestly in his attic at night. The next morning, as usual, Gu In led the disciples in their exercises. Hearing the commotion, Li Xiandao also came out, with Xiao Chuan greeting him enthusiastically. Gu In only nodded towards Li Xiandao and did not avoid him. As the morning exercises began, Li Xiandao initially didn't pay much attention but gradually found it interesting. After the exercises, Gu In dismissed the disciples and took out a book from his pocket, started reading, and walked towards the loft. At this moment, he had to remain calm and couldn't let Li Zuando's arrival disrupt his daily routine. However, just as he entered the courtyard, Li Xiandao caught up to him. "Valley Master, what are you reading?" Li Xiandao asked with a smile. Gu In turned around, holding up the book, and said, "Investiture of the Gods, have you read it?" Li Xiandao smiled even more, saying, "I have indeed read it and even memorized it backward." "Oh, so we're fellow enthusiasts?" At first sight, I felt a sense of familiarity. Shall we discuss Investiture of the Gods?" Hearing Li Zuando's insincere words, Gu In could only smile and agree. He invited Li Xiandao upstairs, and after they sat, he began to boil water and make tea using spiritual power to light the fire. Li Xiandao glanced around the room and said, "Valley Master, what do you think of King Zhou?" "Good grief. Testing me right away?" Facing away from Li Xiandao, Gu In placed tea leaves in the cup and said, "If we only consider the story, he was cruel and unjust. But on closer inspection, some of his actions seemed illogical." After hearing this, Li Xiandao said wistfully, "Indeed. When I first read it, I thought King Zhou was foolish and cruel. But upon rereading, something felt off. In that world of the story, immortals and gods truly existed. King Zhou couldn't have been unaware of this, yet he dared to desecrate the sacred statue of Nvoi. Such actions are not what a monarch should exhibit. And Nvoi, who stood high above, didn't punish the mortals who desecrated her directly. Instead, she sent a vixen to corrupt the emperor's heart, leading to chaos in the world. Can such actions be considered those of a god, or even an immortal? Guwen turned around, placing the tea on the table before Li Xiandao. He smiled and said, "Indeed, there are many illogical points. But after all, it's a fictional story created for entertainment, so the contradictions are understandable." Unable to discern Li Zuando's identity, he kept his stance vague. Li Xiandao shook his head, saying, "Perhaps the story is fictional, but its depiction of the world is real. That is, above each head, there is divine oversight, and humans cannot surpass the heavens." Guwen did not expect him to interpret investiture of the gods in this way. If King Zhou were powerful enough to surpass all the immortals and sects, how would the story be written then? Li Xiandao asked. Guwen thought for a moment and said, "Then the ultimate rival wouldn't be heaven-reaching sect master but King Zhou." Li Xiandao paused, unable to keep a straight face, and began to laugh. He picked up the teacup, blowing away the steam. Guwen couldn't discern his smile, so he kept silent. After taking a sip of tea, Li Xiandao began to inquire about Mystic Valley's planting, asking even about cultivation details, to which Guwen answered one by one. "You joined the Supreme Sect not to seek immortality but to cultivate flowers and herbs. Is this out of necessity or genuine interest?" Li Xiandao asked. Guwen smiled bitterly and said, "It's both necessity and interest. Each of us has our pursuits. Immortality is not the only meaning in life. Of course, if I had excellent qualifications, I would also pursue immortality." Li Xiandao teased, "You truly are an interesting person, speaking so candidly. In this life, looking back at the past and towards the future, it boils down to finding joy in hardship." Guwen shrugged in response. He grew increasingly suspicious that Li Xiandao was someone from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, trying to test his stance on Mystic Valley. Li Xiandao placed the teacup down and asked, "What do you think of the current emperor? Do you believe he is like King Zhou?" Guwen was taken aback. This topic shift was too abrupt. How did it suddenly jump to the emperor of the Taizong dynasty? Could he not be from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, but really a relative of Li Ya? Guwen's mind raced, and he said, "I don't know much, for before joining the Supreme Sect, I was merely a house servant. I haven't heard any outside news in this Medicine Valley. Why, has the Emperor done something?" Li Xiandao smiled. "Not really. But he's been on the throne for too long. There's much debate both in the court and among the people. The mundane world seems to think an emperor shouldn't reign too long. If he does, it's only a matter of time before he becomes inept. In the immortal cultivation world, more fear that the emperor might cultivate to immortality, thus letting imperial power dominate over the cultivation world." Guwen grew nervous. There were too many layers to this question. He dared not speak rashly. Seeing Guwen's hesitation, Li Xiandao teased and asked, "Do you think it's better for an emperor to reign for a long time or to be replaced every few decades?" Knowing that Li Xiandao was at the 8th level of the Divinity transformation realm, Guwen dared not remain silent. After pondering a moment, Guwen said, "In my view, it depends on the emperor's character. If he is virtuous and governs well, a long reign poses no issue. However, if he is imminent yet passes the throne to a foolish son, it's a disaster for the people. The common folk live only around 100 years. If life is hard during their time, they will blame the emperor for abdicating." Li Xiandao laughed again, and Guwen could distinctly feel his improved mood. "Wait, Li Ya's relative, surname Li, talks about King Zhou, questions the emperor." Guwen had heard from the Ji family that the emperor of the Taizong dynasty also cultivated and had been in power for 200 years. "You're right. I shouldn't heed those opinions. I should see the people's lives personally," Li Xiandao chuckled. At these words, Guwen's face drastically changed, exclaiming, You are the current emperor?" He tried to stand up. Li Xiandao raised his hand, and a powerful pressure pressed Guwen back into his seat. Guwen did not resist to avoid revealing his strength. "Lower your voice. You don't need to treat me as an emperor. Just consider me as Li Ya's father. You can call me uncle." Li Xiandao smiled warmly, devoid of imperial majesty. Guwen didn't know how to respond. An emperor at the 8th layer of the Divinity transformation realm. This is trouble. Li Xiandao spoke. Bring out the heavenly residence. Gu En immediately retrieved the heavenly residence sword from his storage bag. Seeing the sword, Li Xuando's eyes grew complex. He gently caressed the sheath. Gu En recalled Li Ya's words that the heavenly residence sword was a gift from his royal father to his mother, then passed to him after her death. Now seeing Li Xuando's expression, Gu En started imagining the tragic love-hate story between Li Xiandao and Li Ya's mother. After a long while, Li Xiandao set down the heavenly residence sword and pushed it towards Gu En, saying, "In the Supreme Sect, Li Ya regards you as his best friend. I heard you saved him. Thus, this sword is now yours. I reward it to you. From now on, you are the master of the heavenly residence sword. Moreover, I plan to establish a medicine valley near the Supreme Sect, planting many high-rank medicinal herbs. You are to manage it for me. I will ensure your efforts are worthwhile. In time, I will help you achieve foundation establishment. Even core formation won't be difficult. Yet remember one thing, though you appear as a disciple of the Supreme Sect, your allegiance is to me." Chapter 38. Hateful Heaven Divine Sword, Supreme Sect's Astonishing Incident. Li Xiandao finished speaking, smiling at Gu En and waiting for his decision. Gu En froze. The Emperor wanted him to be a spy? This was forcing him to be a triple agent. This was not what Gu En pursued, but the key was that it was hard for him to refuse, as the other party's cultivation level and status were both higher than his. Not refusing would bring endless troubles in the future. Refusing would bring trouble right now. However, Gu En thought about the high-rank medical herb mentioned earlier, and his heart beat faster uncontrollably. Gu En hesitated and asked, "Do I have the option to refuse?" "Yes, if you refuse, I will erase today's memory, and it will be as if we never met," Li Xiandao replied with a light laugh. Gu En asked helplessly, "Why choose me? I am mediocre. With your status, recruiting a disciple from the Supreme Sect would be a piece of cake." Li Xiandao shook his head, saying, "I did not intentionally want to recruit disciples from the Supreme Sect, but you happen to have a close relationship with Li Ya. I wanted to support you, and because you are mediocre, I can trust you more because I can meet your needs." He paused for a moment and added in a frivolous tone, "People do not wish for the Emperor to live forever, and I do not wish for the Master of Medicine Valley to live forever either." What a sense of humor! Gu En could only say, "If that is the case, then I have no choice but to agree." Several decades later, when you look back, you will not regret today's decision, Li Xiandao said with a smile, his tone full of heroism. Gu En could not resist his curiosity and asked, "Have you always been watching Senior Brother Li? We have finished talking, there is no need to call me Emperor anymore. You should call me Uncle instead, so it feels more like family," Li Xiandao said with a stern face. Gu En saw that he did not seem to be probing. Thus, he called him Uncle. Li Xiandao smiled and said, "To be frank, I have many pawns in the outer sect of the Supreme Sect. Naturally, I am aware of Li Ya's situation." Gu En previously thought that Li Ya did not have a good relationship with his father, but now it appeared that was not the case. Could there be a misunderstanding? He wanted to inquire on behalf of Li Ya, but he held back. This emperor wanted immortality, and such an emperor surely had a complex attitude towards his princes. Even if he loved them, there would likely be some apprehension in his heart. Which crown prince wanted to remain a crown prince forever? Which prince did not have a secret longing for the emperor's throne? Gu En felt deeply moved. Earlier he thought the talents of Li Ya and Li Xuanyu were already strong, but after seeing Li Xiandao, he understood why those two were so talented. Bloodline inheritance. 8 layers of divinity transformation realm at the age of 230. Had he broken through the divinity transformation realm at the age of 100? Too outrageous. The most crucial point was that he practiced a secret technique that concealed his aura. Without Gu An's lifespan detection ability, it would be impossible to see through his true cultivation level. Perhaps neither the court nor the immortal cultivation world could see through his cultivation level, which allowed him to cultivate peacefully until now. Afterward, Li Xiandao began inquiring about the affairs in the valley, curious about the origin of the Chinese New Year mentioned by the other disciples. Guwen responded with the same words he used for others. Li Xiandao became interested in the Chinese New Year and decided to join in today. How could Guwen refuse? An hour later, the two walked down the pavilion, preparing for the Chinese New Year with other disciples. The disciples were all very happy, laughing and chatting, which also affected Li Xiandao. As night fell, Guwen brought out the self-made firecrackers, and Mystic Valley resounded with bursts of explosions, deafeningly loud. The firelight shone on Li Zuando's face. He was smiling and even drinking with Xiaochuan, making it impossible to associate him with the emperor of the Taizong dynasty. The disciples like Tang Yu and Su Han prepared some performances like storytelling, sparring, and acrobatics, ensuring the night was lively until late. The next day at noon, Guwen saw Li Xiandao off. 2 more years, really something to look forward to. Guwen silently thought. Li Xiandao said he would send someone to take him to Medicine Valley in 2 years. He planned to strive for a lifespan of 100,000 years in these 2 years, then break through to the Divinity Transformation Realm. No, he must surpass the Divinity Transformation Realm to be stronger than Li Xiandao, otherwise he would not be at ease. After all, accompanying a king was like accompanying a tiger. What if one day Li Xiandao became deranged and wanted to harm him? Guwen looked in the direction Li Xiandao left, silently curious why this emperor came to the outer sect alone. Was he really here to visit Li Xuanyu? Lia once said that Li Zuando's favorite child was Li Xuanyu. Guwen did not think further, turning to enter the valley, preparing to plant more medicinal herbs. Spring passed and summer came. Guwen welcomed his 34th birthday in the summer. On this day, he bid farewell to Du Yi, who came to ask for medicinal herbs. At the mouth of the valley, Du Yi turned back and said, "These years, you provided many medicinal herbs. Young Master Jilin is very satisfied with you. In some time, he will send someone to deliver a Foundation Establishment pill to help you reach the Foundation Establishment realm early. Once you become a true outer disciple, he will find a way for you to continue managing this Medicine Valley." After saying that, he turned and left, leaping over the forest on his sword. Guwen shook his head with a smile. When he saw Li Xiandao off at the beginning of the year, Li Xiandao had said something similar. In the future, he had to keep a distance from the Ji family, lest they use him when they wanted to plot against the Supreme Sect. The sect was strong, but the family's power could not be underestimated either. In this land, dynasties changed, and sects rose and fell, but some families could exist forever. The Ji family was one of them. Alas, I just want to pick flowers and herbs. Why are so many people trying to recruit me? Guwen thought to himself while walking into the nearby forest. In the forest, someone was practicing swordsmanship. It was Su Han. Now, Su Han had reached the 7th layer of the energy cultivation realm, second only to Guwen and Tang Yu in the valley. Tang Yu practiced leg techniques, while Su Han focused on swordsmanship. However, the swordsmanship he practiced was taught by Liya, not considered profound. Guwen watched him practice swordsmanship from a distance, hesitating whether to give him some pointers. Su Han was diligent and industrious in his daily work and cultivation, leaving Guwen with no complaints. No, he was not practicing the Li family's 7 swords. Looking closely, Guwen realized it was the first time he saw this sword technique. Did this boy also have a fortuitous encounter? When did this happen? Guwen was curious and deliberately stepped on the fallen leaves, making some noise. Practicing swordsmanship, Su Han noticed Guwen's arrival. He immediately stopped and turned to greet Guwen. "Xiaohan, entering the outer sect depends on cultivation level. Why do you practice swordsmanship so diligently?" Guwen asked with a smile. Su Han scratched his head with his left hand and said, "I am not in a hurry to enter the outer sect. I want to master swordsmanship first." "Why do you think so?" "Entering the outer sect means taking on missions. If my skills are not strong enough, it will only cut off my future." Su Han's answer made Guwen laugh. This kid knew exactly what he liked. Guwen curiously asked, "Is your swordsmanship inherited from your family?" Su Han nodded and said, "It is my father's swordsmanship, but it is too profound. I have only managed to comprehend it recently. Your father must have been impressive. Although I do not practice swordsmanship diligently, I have seen many exquisite sword techniques in the outer sect, none as good as the one you displayed just now, Guin asked curiously. Su-Han shook his head and said, My father was just a useless person. Since I can remember, he was blind, without any spells. He passed away when I was 7. Later, I found this swordsmanship manual in his baggage. Saying this, he took a sword manual out of his pocket and directly handed it to Guin. Guin took it and raised an eyebrow slightly. Hateful Heaven Divine Sword. What a strange name. Seeing this name, Guin immediately wanted to expel Su-Han from Mystic Valley. This guy clearly carried a grudge. Guin skimmed through it. With his achievement in the nascent soul realm of the 9th layer, it was enough to remember it perfectly. However, mastering it still depended on one's aptitude in swordsmanship. He handed the sword manual back to Su-Han and pondered, This swordsmanship is indeed exquisite, but its mental method seems somewhat sinister. Do you really need to practice it? This swordsmanship required tempering the internal organs with sword chi, causing unimaginable pain to the practitioner. Moreover, some of the guidelines were beyond Guin's understanding. Based on his sword Dao accomplishment, he could assert that this swordsmanship was very dangerous. Su-Han was taken aback and asked, Master, do you think I should not practice it? Guin shook his head and said, I just think this swordsmanship may bring you suffering. I do not know your background, so I cannot understand your feelings. Whether you practice it or not is up to you. If you choose not to, you can stay in Mystic Valley as long as you want. You will always be my student. Hearing this, Su-Han felt touched. He put the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword back in his pocket and nodded heavily. Guin took a book out of his pocket, the latest volume of Investiture of the Gods, given to him by Du Yi. Du Yi said Ji Lin was obsessed with this book, causing his followers to read it as well. The book you wanted. Guin handed Investiture of the Gods to Su-Han and then turned to leave. Su-Han held Investiture of the Gods, smiling. Returning to Medicine Valley, Guin began observing other servant disciples. First Li Ye, then Wuxin, and now Su-Han, all with unusual backgrounds. Mystic Valley was too mysterious. Something felt off. An hour later, Guin returned to his pavilion. The other servant disciples did not appear to have any issues, allowing him to feel somewhat at ease. On second thought, it made sense. To join the immortal cultivation world, one must have an extraordinary background or experience. In their eyes, they were the protagonists. Until late at night, Guin quietly entered the 8 scenic caves. After playing with the sky dragon for an hour, he took out the heavenly residence sword and began practicing the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword. Multiple skills did not burden oneself. He decided to practice it until it was included in his attribute panel first. Suddenly, the sound of wind whistling through the branches of the green vine tree arose, the sound of a sword blade slicing through the air. In the distance, the sky dragon watched curiously, its dragon eyes reflecting Guin's sword training. At the end of summer, Guin went to the outer gate city. First, he visited the elixir hall to submit a year's worth of medicinal herb harvest, then went to the book collection hall to submit a manuscript. Since Investiture of the Gods became popular, Elder Lu Chang valued him greatly, always receiving him personally, afraid word would leak out. Lu Chang mentioned fearing Guin's reputation would be exposed, and he would be abducted by the demon path, causing the book collection hall to lose substantial spirit stone revenue. This made Guin even more cautious. After completing official business, Guin visited Lu Jiojia, who was delighted and invited him to visit Yi Lan together, whom she happened to be in the city. Not all outer disciples opened caves in the outskirts, since constructing a cave was expensive. Most disciples chose to live within the outer gate, enjoying the outer gate's spiritual energy. In the courtyard, after sitting down, Lu Jiojia poured wine for Guin and said mysteriously, something big happened in the Supreme Sect. Chapter 39. Nascent Soul Blocks the Path, Despicable. What's the big event? Guin asked with a smile. Upon arriving at the outer gate city today, he indeed sensed the atmosphere was off, an indescribable tension in the air. Yilan spoke up. The sect leader and one of the elders are fighting for power. Recently, the emperor came to the supreme sect and appointed that elder's direct disciple as the national master, granting him a high-ranking official position and announcing it to the world. This boosted the morale of the people aligned with that elder, and they have been spreading unfavorable rumors about the sect leader. Lu Jiujia, slightly peeved as Yi Lan had spoken first, quickly added after she finished. The sect leader's domineering ways have offended many elders. Over the years, disciples have repeatedly suffered injuries and deaths, with demonic invasions occurring in territories outside the outer sect. Many elders are unhappy about this. Now that the emperor supports the sect leader's opponents, their restraint is broken, and thus chaos ensues. Guan curiously asked, "Doesn't the sect leader have absolute power? Isn't he the strongest cultivator in the supreme sect?" Of course not. The sect leader is elected by collective support from the elders. Within the supreme sect, the highest cultivation level does not belong to the sect leader but to the true inheritor. It's said he is the most talented individual in the supreme sect in a millennium. He often travels and rarely returns. I've heard a rumor that if he wishes to become the sect leader today, by tomorrow, he would be the sect leader. Lu Jiujia replied, his tone becoming excited when mentioning the true inheritor. That impressive? What's his name? Cough, I haven't learned that yet. Lu Jiujia feigned a cough, trying to conceal his embarrassment. Yi Lan shot him a scornful look, then turned to Guan, whispering, "I've heard many inside stories at the law enforcement hall as well. The open and covert struggles in the main city of the sect have spread to the inner and outer sects. Senior brother, you must be careful in Mystic Valley. Those people will do anything for power." Guan chuckled. It won't go that far, right? Would someone dare to slaughter Mystic Valley and then frame the other party? As soon as he said this, Guan felt a pang of anxiety. Someone had already been raising a demon of greed outside the outer sect. What else was impossible? Yi Lan noticed his worry and placed her hand on his, comforting him. "Senior brother, don't worry, I will find a way to persuade the law enforcement hall to increase patrols in the various medicine valleys of the outer sect." Guan instinctively withdrew his hand, momentarily distracted by her touch. Actually, he had noticed it but feared reacting too quickly might arouse suspicion among his junior disciples. Lu Jiujia laughed secretly but was met with a glare from Yi Lan. "You must be even more cautious than me. Power struggles like these can be more dangerous than battling demons outside." Guan advised earnestly. Lu Jiujia confidently claimed there was no way he would die. Yi Lan stated she was in the law enforcement hall, so no one dared to act rashly against her. The law enforcement hall oversaw all departments, offering its disciples power above ordinary disciples, but they had less time for cultivation, having to handle any incident in any department. Guan looked at Yi Lan with a sigh of relief. In just a few years out of the valley, Yi Lan had transformed from a little girl following him around into a capable and reliable presence. The three of them drank and chatted. Usually, Lu Jiujia and Yi Lan did most of the talking, and through their words, Guan gained a much clearer understanding of the situation within the Supreme Sect. He was deeply gratified. The junior disciples he had trained were now taking care of him. A unique sense of achievement filled his heart. If Mystic Valley's disciples scattered across the outer sect's various departments or even entered the inner sect, he would be influential indeed. Just the thought of it excited Guan. 2 hours later, Lu Jiujia left first, and Guan declined Yi Lan's invitation to her residence to enjoy fine delicacies. He then left the outer gate city with her wistful expression in his memory. Riding his flying sword, flying against the wind, Guan felt quite cheerful. The sky gradually turned crimson as dusk approached. Guan's apparent cultivation level had reached the 9th layer of the energy cultivation realm, so his flight speed was not slow. He admired the undulating mountain forests along the way. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Suddenly, while flying, Guan saw a figure shoot out from the mountain forest ahead, swiftly approaching, causing him to slow down. He saw an old man in white robes, stepping on a sword and holding a wine gourd, his nose red like a date, as if he had just had a heavy drink. "Young friend, please stop." The old man's voice came, and Guin could sense that his cultivation aura was in the Foundation establishment realm. But to be safe, he used a lifespan detection. Lin Futian, Nascent Soul Realm First Layer 603/800/840? Whoa! Nascent Soul Realm. Guin cursed silently. The old man had cultivated a secret technique to hide his true cultivation. The two quickly met in midair, where Lin Futian wore a friendly smile, saying, "Young friend, I am Lin Kuan, a disciple of the Outer Sect's Law Enforcement Hall. There is something I need to inquire about. Recently, demonic spies have been rampant. Shall we talk in the woods?" Guin nodded, realizing that refusing now would hardly be feasible. It was better to play along for the time being. They swiftly descended into the forest, and Guin casually plucked 2 leaves from a tree. Lin Futian took a step forward, cryptically asking, "Young friend, have you heard of Su Rui from the Wanin Sect?" "Su Rui? Very familiar. He was the one I killed. Back then, Su Rui and Chan Ji wanted to take over his Medicine Valley and even injured Liya. How could he forget?" Feigning confusion, Guin asked, "I've heard of the Wanin Sect, but who is Su Rui?" Su Rui was a genius of the Wanin Sect, whose father is the Vice Sect hierarch. He died around this area, and lately, many Wanin Sect spies are investigating his death. Lin Futian stepped closer as he spoke. Guin immediately stepped back, maintaining a distance. Seeing his wary expression, Lin Futian grinned. "What? Young friend, are you suspecting him a Wanin Sect spy?" Guin shook his head. "I wouldn't dare, senior. I truly haven't heard of Su Rui. Since you're from the Law Enforcement Hall, why ask me?" "Ha ha ha," Lin Futian laughed heartily. He suddenly swung his sleeve, and abundant spiritual power spread like a mist, quickly covering several miles. Guin was startled, raising his sword with his right hand, watching him intently. Lin Futian then opened his wine gourd, and a foul stench of alcohol wafted out. He grinned evilly. "Don't be afraid, you will have 15 of your fellow disciples accompanying you in here." Guin gritted his teeth. "Who are you? What is your background? If I must die, can't you at least let me die understanding why? Haven't you guessed already?" Lin Futian sneered, raising his hand to grab at Guin from a distance. A strong spiritual force bound Guin, pulling him toward Lin Futian. Guin's face showed despair as his body flew through the air, rapidly approaching Lin Futian. Lin Futian's left hand reached out to grab him, while his right hand held the wine gourd, pouring liquor into his mouth. Boom! Guin suddenly unleashed a terrifying aura, instantly shattering Lin Futian's spiritual force. Lin Futian's pupils dilated, reflecting a leaf in his eyes. The leaf was surrounded by sharp sword chi, moving as fast as lightning, piercing through Lin Futian's forehead, blood splattering as the leaf continued on its path. Rumble, one by one, trees were shattered, dust rising like a giant gray wall extending for miles. Lin Futian trembled all over, his face showing disbelief. Furious, he roared, "You actually hid your cultivation, Despicable!" Guin stepped up to him, placing his right hand's index and middle fingers together, pressing them against Lin Futian's chest like a sword. Boom! Sword chi exploded, bursting Lin Futian's body apart, dispersing the dust wave behind him. The powerful force bowed the trees outwards, leaving a trench several miles long. From the flying dust, a baby's figure shot out, its face aged and eerie. It was Lin Futian's nascent soul. He flew toward the horizon at full speed, hearing the sound of something slicing through the air. Instinctively looking back, he saw a leaf racing toward him, directly destroying his nascent soul, blood misting in the air. Guin raised his hand, calling his flying sword back, stepping forward, enveloped in sword chi, turning into a sword shadow and rapidly disappearing into the forest. Rather than heading towards Mystic Valley, he chose another direction. During the quick flight, a prompt appeared. "You've successfully seized 25 years of Lin Futian's Nascent Soul Realm First Layer lifespan. It wasn't much, but it couldn't be helped. Although Lin Futian was in the nascent soul realm, at 603, he only had 197 years left. Guwen didn't dwell on it. He made a large loop before swiftly returning to Mystic Valley. Entering through a window into the hall of the attic, he sat at the table. With a grasp of his hand, a jar of wine flew over from the wine cabinet. He began drinking deeply. After a large gulp, he gently set down the jar. His right hand trembled slightly, and his heartbeat pounded. Phew, Guwen struggled to calm his emotions. It was terrifying, returning home and encountering a demonic spy. Worried about the commotion Head made earlier, Guwen decided not to leave the valley for the next month to lay low. No, it's too dangerous. Today, a nascent soul attacked me. Who knows if tomorrow, it could be someone at the Divinity transformation realm or even higher. Guwen quickly pulled up his attribute panel. Seeing his lifespan of over 91,000, his anxiety eased a bit. The Immortal cultivation path was indeed fraught with danger. Even a cultivator at the 9th layer of the Chi cultivation realm could be intercepted by a nascent soul great cultivator. Wasn't this frightening? Guwen thought of the 15 souls in that wine gourd, feeling a wave of sympathy for them. He planned to aggressively harvest a batch of medicinal herbs to push his lifespan to 100,000 years, hoping to unlock new features, and then use the lifespan immediately. Guwen took a deep breath, pulling out his copy of the Green Hero Travelogue to divert his attention. As night fell, cheers erupted outside from the disciples. Guwen used divine sense to see that Tang Yu and Su Han were sparring again, with other disciples watching the spectacle. Normally he would join in to watch, but he was in no mood today. Deeply engrossed in the Green Hero Travelogue, he gradually calmed down even though he still felt some lingering worry. After a while, footsteps approached and soon, the door was pushed open. Zhen Qin hurriedly entered, saying, "Master, senior brother and second senior brother are fighting." Her eyes fell on the cover of the Green Hero Travelogue, and she raised her eyebrows slightly. Chapter 40 Here Flying Leaves Again. Lifespan of 100,000 years. Guwen closed the Green Hero Travelogue and asked impassively, "Don't they often spar? Why did they actually start fighting?" Zhen Qin withdrew her gaze and said urgently, "Second senior brother executed a sword technique, and first senior brother mocked it for being too soft. Second senior brother got upset, and he has already wounded first senior brother and refuses to stop." Upon hearing this, Guwen immediately stood up. Master and disciple quickly went downstairs. At this moment, the onlookers were no longer cheering but constantly urging Su Han to stop. Under the night sky, Su Han's hair was disheveled, resembling a fierce ghost, swinging his sword madly. His eyes even glowed with blood, while Tang Yu, who faced him, appeared very distressed. His robe was slashed into strips of cloth, and there were 2 shocking wounds on his chest, from which blood gushed, staining his pants red. Wu Xin and Xiaochuan wanted to step forward to stop him, but Su Han's fierce sword moves kept them from getting close. Seeing Guwen rush over, the disciples quickly made way. Guwen stepped between the two in just a few movements, grabbing Su Han's right wrist with his left hand and blocking Tang Yu's leg with his left arm. Tang Yu was jolted back, astonished. How could the master's arm be so hard? He then breathed a sigh of relief, looking at Su Han with lingering fear. Su Han was immobilized by Gu En's grip on his wrist, and with a forceful squeeze, his sword clattered to the ground. "Wake up!" Guwen shouted in a deep voice. Su Han shuddered, and the bloodthirsty hostility in his eyes began to fade. Standing not far away, Wu Xin was alarmed. The senior brother's hand was fast. Although Guwen had reached the 9th layer of Chi cultivation realm, they always thought he wasn't that strong, mainly because Guwen often downplayed himself. Gu En's action just now refreshed Wuxin's understanding. He suddenly felt that the senior brother wasn't simple. Xiaochuan, however, was used to it. Guwen had also subdued an enraged Meng Lang back in the day. Maybe Gu An's spirit root qualification was mediocre, but in Xiaochuan's heart, Gu An's combat ability was very strong, at least making him feel very reliable. The other disciples were also intimidated by Gu An's move. It was the first time they saw Guan take action, easily subduing Tang Yu and Su Han, who were at the 7th layer of the energy cultivation realm. Zhen Qin was the first to cheer, breaking the silence, and the others followed, surrounding him. Master, you are so powerful. Second senior brother, wake up. Master, has second senior brother deviated? It's all first senior brother's fault for mocking second senior brother. I've never seen second senior brother so angry. The disciples chattered, while Guan focused on Su Han. Su Han panted heavily, his body suddenly going limp like mud, but with his right hand held by Guan he couldn't fall. He looked up weakly at Guan, saying, Master. Before he could finish, his head tilted, and he fainted. Guan let 2 disciples help Su Han back to the house and then turned to Tang Yu. Facing the master's gaze, Tang Yu blushed, not knowing how to explain, but he felt very aggrieved, having been injured. Go back and stop the bleeding first, Guan said expressionlessly. On hearing this, Tang Yu quickly bowed and left. Guan looked at the others, saying, Aren't you dispersing? No cultivation today? With that he turned and headed towards the attic. The disciples watched his back, looking at each other. Although Guan didn't say anything very harsh, they all thought he was angry. Little did they know, Guan simply wasn't in the mood to lecture. That night, all the disciples in the valley harbored their concerns, unable to calm their minds. Guan stayed alone in the attic, and in the second half of the night, he felt several powerful divine senses sweep across. His fight with Lin Futian had finally attracted the attention of the Supreme Sect. Early the next morning, Su Han came to visit Guan to apologize. What's the use of apologizing to me? I wasn't the one you hurt, Guan said, looking at him calmly. Su Han gritted his teeth, saying, He was the one who mocked my swordsmanship first. Guan asked, Did you explain the origin of the swordsmanship to him? Su Han stammered. You and Tang Yu joined the Medicine Valley on the same day. You have the closest relationship. You should know his personality. He speaks roughly, but his nature isn't bad. Guan's tone was slightly stern. After all, having been together for so many years, he didn't want his disciples to turn against each other. He didn't forcibly stop Su Han from continuing to cultivate the hateful heaven divine sword. Such things couldn't be stopped, and blocking it would probably ruin their master-disciple bond. Su Han recalled his years with Tang Yu, feeling guilty. Initially, Tang Yu had just jested about his swordsmanship. Unable to master the hateful heaven divine sword, Su Han was already distressed, leading to a verbal spat. Tang Yu got provoked too, saying increasingly harsh words, which enraged Su Han, causing him to deviate. Master, I was wrong. I'll go find first senior brother now, Su Han said seriously after taking a deep breath. Guan said, Don't wait. Go now. I also need to check the medicinal herbs. He stood up and walked towards Su Han. They left the attic one after the other. Su Han closed the door, following Guan's pace, unable to help but ask, Master, aren't you curious why I lost control last night? Without turning back, Guan said, Probably related to your hateful heaven divine sword. This swordsmanship was passed down from your father. Whether to practice it or not, I have no right to decide. You need to figure out what's most important in your heart. Su Han slowed his steps, standing before the stairs, staring blankly at Guan's back. What's most important? Guan had no time to worry about his disciples' conflicts. He had said what needed to be said, and if they couldn't get along, they would leave Mystic Valley and never meet again at the ends of the earth. Guan began inspecting the medicinal herbs in various gardens, checking which ones were nearing maturity. He needed to accumulate a lifespan of 100,000 years quickly, so he harvested some herbs that were almost mature right away. Of course, he didn't touch the herbs far from maturity. He wasn't crazy enough to destroy his foundation. Currently, he had many channels to gather lifespan, so he wasn't too anxious. In the sky above the mountains and forests, several cultivators stood on magic artifacts, looking down. Among them, disciples of the law enforcement hall were searching, including Yi Lan. Chu Jingfeng stood on a flying sword, his right sleeve fluttering in the wind, exuding a sense of desolation, no longer carrying the same youthful vigor as before. An old man flew over on a gourd, handing a leaf to Chu Jingfeng, saying, "It should be the work of the flying leaf sword Immortal." Nearby, we found the wine soul gourd of Lin Futian, the squad leader of the Wanyin Sect, containing the souls of 15 disciples of the Supreme Sect. Chu Jingfeng took the leaf, examining it carefully. The surface was covered with fine sword marks, barely visible at first glance. He pondered, "So the flying leaf sword Immortal is indeed one of our own?" The old man nodded. "It seems so." The attack on Zhuijin was likely due to factional disputes. Given his power to easily kill Lin Futian, if he intended to kill Zhuijin wouldn't have survived. Chu Jingfeng remained silent. The old man looked at Chu Jingfeng's fluttering right sleeve, saying, "Jingfeng, you should let go of your grudge and reattach your arms soon. Otherwise, continuously practicing swordsmanship with your left hand will make it hard to revert later." "Why should I? The flying leaf sword Immortal can use leaves as swords. Why must I wield a sword with my right hand?" Chu Jingfeng countered. Upon hearing this, the old man shook his head and smiled wryly, ceasing his persuasion. In the forest below, Yi Lan stood in a ravine, looking toward its end, as if it led to the ends of the earth. Her eyes were full of shock. "I heard it was the flying leaf sword Immortal." This terrifying sight was caused by a single leaf, a female disciple said, expressing her amazement. The surrounding disciples also marveled at the power of the flying leaf sword Immortal, and Yi Lan was deeply impressed. How high a cultivation level would be needed to possess such terrifying power? Yi Lan turned to look in another direction, her eyes filled with concern. Since Lin Fuxian's death, several cultivators frequently flew over Mystic Valley every few days, most of them at the Foundation establishment realm. Occasionally, Guwen could see Yi Lan among them. She never came down to visit Guwen, seemingly just passing by. But passing by Mystic Valley's sky 4 times in a month, how could Guwen not understand her intentions? This girl, Guwen stood by the window watching the cultivators disappear in the distance, feeling a warmth in his heart. He pulled up his attribute panel, looking at his lifespan of 99,999 years. His hands clenched tightly within his sleeves. It was about to happen. Tonight he would break through the realm. Because of this month's forced harvesting, the yield for the coming year's lifespan would decrease. But after a year, it should recover and continue to grow. He had deliberately left a space of 10 years of lifespan, waiting to pick it quietly tonight. He wanted to fully enjoy the feeling of burning life. Seeing it was still early, Guwen couldn't sit still, so he went downstairs. Arriving in the courtyard, he saw Su Han practicing his sword on the eastern mountain peak from a distance. Since that night's conflict, Su Han had become reclusive, and others dared not disturb him for fear of another outburst. Tang Yu and Su Han's relationship had recovered. After learning the origin of Hateful Heaven Divine Sword, Tang Yu apologized to Su Han, but since then he had trained even harder. Apology aside, he didn't want to lose to Su Han again. After all, he was the first senior brother. Guwen came to the wooden fence of the garden, looking around with a smile. "Master, what makes you so happy?" Zhen Qin came running, asking curiously. Guwen ruffled her hair, smiling. "What? Do I not usually smile?" Zhen Qin giggled. "Master, since you're in a good mood today, why not teach me the residual wind leg?" Guwen asked in surprise. "Didn't you hate practicing swordsmanship and leg techniques? What's changed your mind?" "I want to be like Aunt Yi Lan and become a disciple of the Law Enforcement Hall," Zhen Qin said excitedly, clenching her fists. As it turned out, earlier, Wu Xin and Xiaochuan had seen Yi Lan and marveled together, overheard by Zhen Qin, who was weeding nearby. Learning that Yi Lan wore a robe belonging to the Law Enforcement Hall, Zhen Qin greatly admired her. Guwen smiled, saying, "All right, I'll teach you. Sending this girl away sooner would be good. She always disturbed him when he was reading." Thus, Guwen began teaching Zhen Qin the cultivation of the residual wind leg. When night fell and all the disciples returned to their rooms, Guwen then quietly left Mystic Valley. Before leaving, he also picked 2 third-tier medicinal herbs from the garden. Chapter 41. Top-grade heavenly spirit root, breakthrough to divinity transformation realm. Under the night sky, Gu swiftly traversed through the forest. The direction he was heading was opposite to where he had previously slain Lin Futian. This time, he intended to make a breakthrough 100 miles away. Over the past month, he had observed that there were no law enforcement hall disciples patrolling in the dead of night. As he advanced, a series of prompts suddenly appeared before Guan. You have successfully obtained the bitter root grass, 3rd stage, with 6 years of lifespan. You have successfully obtained the bitter root grass, 3rd stage, with 7 years of lifespan. For the first time, your lifespan breaks through 100,000 years, activating the lifespan deduction function. Lifespan deduction. Consume lifespan to deduce the cause and effect of the great Tao and fate, the amount of life. Span consumed depends on the causality deduced. Lifespan deduction? Guan couldn't help but furrow his brow. He suddenly smelled the scent of a conspiracy. Was this aiming to drain his lifespan? Could it instantly exhaust his lifespan? Guan decided to try it lightly first. When this new function appeared, he had a certain understanding, knowing how to use it. The so-called deduction was actually a way of asking questions with lifespan. Guan silently asked in his heart, using lifespan deduction, is Jiang Qiong now intending to kill me? About 2 breaths of time passed. It requires consuming 300 years of lifespan. Proceed with deduction, no. Too expensive. Guan directly refused, but after this trial he felt much more reassured. At least the lifespan deduction would notify him in advance of how much lifespan it needed to consume, avoiding his lifespan being suddenly drained. Guan no longer probed and focused on his journey. He would rather not use this function unless absolutely necessary. Consuming lifespan to explore the unknown seemed unworthy to him for now. Along the way, Guan was very cautious, his divine sense constantly spread out to avoid encountering Nascent soul cultivators again. The night was lonely and silent. Although he could not see any demon beasts along the way, he did see traces of wild animals, mostly herbivores like wild rabbits and mice. About 50 miles from Mystic Valley, Guan suddenly saw a white spirit rat. In the forest, this creature was entangled with a rabbit, following closely behind the rabbit's backside. As the rabbit hopped, it sniffed forward from time to time. It looked like a big dog chasing a rabbit. So humble. Guan pretended not to see it and quietly left without disturbing the white spirit rat. No wonder this guy keeps running outside all the time, its actions even resemble a rabbit. Guan couldn't help but laugh and cry as he recalled the scene he had just witnessed. The white spirit rat seemed to be raised poorly, but luckily he still had the sky dragon. Thinking of the majestic demeanor of the sky dragon, Guan's mood improved. Half an hour later, Guan arrived in a dense forest where leaves intertwined thickly. Even if someone flew by above, they wouldn't see him. Guan sat down under a large tree, took a deep breath, and brought up his attribute panel. Looking at his lifespan of 100,003 years, a look of expectation appeared on his face. With a lifespan of 100,000 years, he was indeed wealthy. This time, he could significantly enhance his attributes. Let's enhance the spirit roots first. A greater investment, considering how difficult it is to improve this. How many years should I invest? After hesitating for a moment, Guan decided to be generous and invest directly 10,000 years. You invested 10,000 years of lifespan into evolving your spirit root. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 100 years, your perception power of 5-element spirit root improved. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 200 years, your perception power of 5-element spirit root improved. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 2,000 years, finally capturing a wisp of heaven and earth's true meaning. Your spirit root underwent a transformation, and your 5-element spirit root began to evolve into a top-grade spirit root, with wood and earth attributes being prominent. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 4,000 years, your perception power of 5-element spirit root improved. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 5,000 years, you felt the arcane of the 5 elements between heaven and earth. Your spirit root qualification went through a qualitative change, and your 5-element spirit root evolved into the 5 elements heavenly spirit root. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 8,000 years, finally capturing a wisp of the wood spirit law of heaven and earth. Your wood attribute spirit root underwent a transformation, evolving into a top-grade wood attribute heavenly spirit root. You comprehended nature and the heavens for 10,000 years. Your perception power of 5-element spirit root improved. One line after another of prompts popped up crazily. There were dozens of prompts, which made Guin reluctant to blink. When the last prompt appeared, he immediately activated the lifespan barrier. In an instant, the grass under his feet emitted a shimmering glow. Even the trees behind him glowed with faint green light, and the area within the barrier was illuminated. The 5 elements heavenly spirit root. Guin instantly became excited. The heavenly spirit root was the strongest spirit root he had heard of so far. Even Ji Xiaoyu from the Ji family couldn't compare. The heavenly spirit root usually belonged to a single attribute. However, the cultivation speed of this single attribute was far beyond that of dual spirit roots, like night and day. According to Li Ye, the heavenly spirit root was the darling of heaven and earth. It either required extraordinary fortune to be born or took generations of effort from a millennium-old family to have a chance to nurture such a spirit root. The Taitsong dynasty currently had only one cultivator with a heavenly spirit root, residing in the Supreme Sect. As for the specific identity, Li Ye didn't disclose. Guin suspected that Li Xiandao was also a heavenly spirit root, but he hid it well. Just as Guin mused, nature's spiritual energy began to pour into his body, making him feel itchy all over, yet indescribably comfortable. Another 10,000 years. In the abundance of lifespan, Guin suddenly felt that 10,000 years was nothing. Thus, he invested another 10,000 years of lifespan into his spirit roots. A series of prompts crazily popped up before him. Spirit root perception power improved. Spirit root perception power improved. As he saw the same prompt repeatedly, Guin's Daoist heart began to tremble. Something's wrong. This is bad. Really bad. Until 5,000 years later, his Earth spirit root evolved into a top-grade heavenly spirit root. For the next 5,000 years, all the prompts were about the improvement of spirit root perception, like a bottomless pit, continuing until it ended. Guin's heart bled. He practiced the divine wood pure yang skill, relying on the wood spirit root would suffice. In other words, the latter 10,000 years of investment wouldn't increase his cultivation speed again. Spirit roots were determined at birth. In reality, there was no known cultivation technique to enhance the spirit roots. Reaching the 5 elements heavenly spirit root from an ordinary 5 spirit roots was already unbelievable. Try again. I can't let this 10,000 years of lifespan go down the drain. Guin gritted his teeth and invested another 10,000 years of lifespan. Another series of prompts quickly popped up, and Guin's expression darkened. An investment of 10,000 years resulted in the fire spirit root evolving into a top-grade heavenly spirit root. Will it really take 10,000 years to enhance a single spirit root? Guin invested another 10,000 years of lifespan into his spirit roots. The nature's spiritual energy pouring into his body increased. Now gray and red light spots surrounded him. After dozens of prompts, Guin's water spirit root evolved into a top-grade heavenly spirit root. If I gather all 5 elements, will there be a qualitative change? Guin continued investing another 10,000 years of lifespan. Finally, his metal spirit root also evolved into a top-grade heavenly spirit root. In the attribute panel, the spirit root section directly indicated a top-grade 5 elements heavenly spirit root. Looking at his lifespan, Guin's gaze became dazed. 50,000 years of lifespan had vanished like this. After getting carried away, Guin felt unprecedentedly empty in his heart. Earth's spirit energy crazily poured into his body. His physical body entered a marvelous state, feeling both itchy and warm, yet without any discomfort. Countless points of light stars floated around him, fire being red, wood green, water blue, metal yellow, earth gray, like a splendid galaxy. Guin's expression became dazed, and his thoughts disordered. Time passed by quickly. An ancient hour later, Guan completed the transformation of his spirit roots, feeling as though heaven and earth had undergone a complete renewal. This sudden surge of perception made him feel spiritually revived. This feeling was just too marvelous. He suddenly felt that the investment of 50,000 years of lifespan was not a loss. The top-grade 5 elements heavenly spirit root was enough to stand proudly in the Taizong dynasty. As for the entire mortal world, he couldn't say for sure, as he was still unsure of the world's vastness. Taking a deep breath, Guan shifted his gaze to the cultivation technique on his attribute panel. Should he enhance the cultivation technique? He feared that once the cultivation technique reached a certain stage, the subsequent investments would exceed his expectations. Moreover, he already had the top-grade 5 elements heavenly spirit root, and his divine wood pure yang skill was not bad. Continuously laying the foundation seemed endless. What if a divinity transformation stage demon cultivator ambushed him tomorrow? Go straight for the cultivation level. With the new spirit roots, don't let me down. Start with another 10,000 years first. Cultivation level was the most important thing and worth the big input. Begin investment. You invested 10,000 years of lifespan into evolving your cultivation level. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 10 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the divinity transformation realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You did not survive the 5 elements heavenly tribulation and failed in the tribulation crossing. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 100 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the divinity transformation realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You did not survive the 5 elements heavenly tribulation and failed in the tribulation crossing. Watching the constant prompts of tribulation crossing failure, Guan's expression remained calm. One tribulation crossing every 100 years, he could accept it. He could not believe he would fail 100 times. Fortunately, the situation was not as bad as he thought. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 2,700 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the divinity transformation realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You survived the 5 elements heavenly tribulation, succeeded in the tribulation crossing, and broke through to the first layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 3,000 years, and your cultivation level broke through to the second layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 3,200 years, and your cultivation level broke through to the third layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 3,400 years, and your cultivation level broke through to the fourth layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 3,700 years, and your cultivation level broke through to the fifth layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 5,000 years, and your cultivation level broke through to the ninth layer of divinity transformation realm. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 5,200 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the void crossing realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You did not survive the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and failed in the tribulation crossing. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 6,400 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the void crossing realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You did not survive the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and failed in the tribulation crossing. Alright, failing again. One tribulation crossing every 200 years, Guan could accept it. At the same time, he was pondering one question. It seemed that spirit root qualification couldn't determine the success rate of tribulation crossing. Could it be that one's own strength was the key to tribulation crossing? Spells, divine skills, formations, secret techniques, magic artifacts, etc. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 9,600 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the void crossing realm and beginning tribulation crossing. You did not survive the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and failed in the tribulation crossing. You practiced Qi absorption cultivation for 9,800 years, with the great accomplishment of divine wood pure yang skill, forcefully impacting the Void Crossing realm and beginning Tribulation Crossing. You survived the mystic dark heavenly tribulation and succeeded in the Tribulation Crossing, breaking through to the first layer of Void Crossing realm. You practiced chi absorption cultivation for 10,000 years, and your cultivation level increased. Gu-en brought up his attribute panel, still having nearly 40,000 years of lifespan left, making the corners of his mouth lift uncontrollably. Chapter 42. Breaking Through to the Void Crossing Realm, Attack of the Demon Lord. Gu-en did not continue to advance his cultivation level. He wanted to wait until he reached the first layer of the Void Crossing realm. He was afraid that the time spent absorbing spiritual energy later would be too long, so it wouldn't be done by daybreak. If the disciples discovered he wasn't in the valley, that would be troublesome. As each hint fell, Gu-en clearly felt the spiritual energy in the earth rushing upward crazily. With a boom, the ground surged with a wave-like spiritual energy, pulling his robe upward, even messing up his black hair. His body wasn't blown away because the spiritual energy had already entered his body, like chains fastening him to the ground. This time, the commotion from devouring the spiritual energy far exceeded the previous breakthrough to the nascent soul realm. The ground beneath Gu-en was even trembling. He secretly rejoiced. Luckily there was the lifespan barrier, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to hide his cultivation level at all. But he suddenly became worried, would such a commotion affect the Supreme Sect? With the lifespan barrier activated, the spiritual energy wasn't produced from the void but drawn from underground. Thus the spiritual energy he absorbed was naturally that of the Supreme Sect. Gu-en had another new guess. Would his cultivation speed in the lifespan evolution be related to the density of spiritual energy in the current environment? He thought it was highly possible because he remembered Li Xiandao, who had reached the 8th floor of the Divinity transformation realm at 230 years old, which was incredible. Thinking about it carefully, the gap between him and Li Xiandao was enormous. If Li Xiandao also had a heavenly spirit root, his advantage was far beyond what Gu-en could compare. As an emperor of a dynasty, Li Xiandao could possess the highest grade cave, enjoy the best immortal cultivation elixirs of a dynasty, and his cultivation technique was undoubtedly top-notch. In addition, there were formations, magic artifacts, and more. Perhaps these were also reasons why Li Xiandao could quickly cross the tribulation successfully. Before, when Zuijian crossed the tribulation, many cultivators protected him. Others made thorough preparations, while he bore it hard in the lifespan evolution. In reality, death meant complete annihilation without another chance in 200 years. Comparing the lifespan evolution with Li Xiandao, Gu-en seemed far inferior but couldn't be compared this way. Actually, Gu-en had reached the first layer of the Void Crossing realm at 34. Could Li Xiandao reach the Void Crossing realm before he was 300 years old? Is there a second person in this world who could nakedly cultivate, endure heavenly tribulations? Thinking this way, Gu-en felt much more balanced. The lifespan invested in cultivation was just numbers, while real cultivation was the truth. At the same time, he wondered if he should cultivate other attributes techniques or find a 5-element skill to practice. This might better unleash the potential of his top-grade 5 elements heavenly spirit root. Rumble. The sound produced by the earth's spirit energy entering his body grew larger. Within the barrier, a vortex had formed. The 5-colored spiritual energy was about to engulf his figure. Dark clouds moved, gradually covering the bright moon. In a mansion, inside a small pavilion, a single oil lamp placed on the table, Zuijian, with white hair, sat on the chair holding a book. Faintly, one could see the 4 characters investiture of the gods. Golden light above splits into 5 colors, red lotus below following through 10,000 paths, 8 trigram immortal clothes coming with purple aura, 3-edged treasure sword named Qingping, Zuijian recited, showing a look of reminiscence on his face. He had been obsessed with investiture of the gods for several years, reading it repeatedly, always finding new understandings. Although there were no techniques of immortal cultivation, the described immortal sorcery made his heart long for it. He thought the book concealed the principles of the Tao, but he couldn't yet see through them. At that moment, Zuijian seemed to sense something, suddenly springing up, his gaze directed towards the ground. The night was lonely, the cold wind bleak. The wind grew stronger. The flame of the oil lamp on the table flickered more violently, as if it could be extinguished at any moment. Not only him, but cultivators from all directions also flew out of their residences and courtyards, with more and more outer sect disciples gathering above the city. What's happening? The spiritual energy is sinking. Did you feel it too? Could it be a demonic invasion? Unlikely, this is the Supreme Sect, who would dare seek death? Could it be an underground big formation being activated? The outer sect disciples discussed. Yilan also flew out of her courtyard on her sword, nervously looking towards the outer sect streets. The night was dark, with an endless stream of cultivators flying up. Those servant disciples who couldn't control swords gathered on the streets, each one filled with panic and confusion. Everyone could feel the spiritual energy sinking into the ground. Having never encountered such a situation, they naturally panicked. What unsettled them the most was the rapidly accelerating descent of the spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in the outer gate city was thinning fast. Spiritual energy is crucial to the foundation of any great sect, constituting part of the great sect's essence. In the mountain forest, Guwen had already stepped into the divinity transformation realm, and his nascent soul emerged from his body, floating above his head. In the nascent soul realm, one could condense a nascent soul, but typically the nascent soul couldn't leave the body. Once it did, it would lose connection with the flesh, so it was only during near-death experiences that cultivators would let their nascent soul leave to find a new body to seize. In the divinity transformation realm, the nascent soul could transform into the primordial spirit, which was a manifestation of the soul. The primordial spirit emergence was a unique method of the divinity transformation realm, and it did not sever the connection with the body. Below the divinity transformation realm, the primordial spirit couldn't be seen unless the primordial spirit chose to appear. When the primordial spirit emerged from the nascent soul, the cultivator's divine sense would undergo a tremendous change. Guwen was immersed in this change. His nascent soul gradually became a green lotus, and as it bloomed, his primordial spirit slowly stood up, looking exactly like him, even with the appearance of clothes. The divinity transformation realm wasn't the end. Guwen was still pushing towards a higher realm, and the spiritual energy he was devouring became more and more enormous. He noticed the forest outside the barrier started to tremble faintly too. This made him even more anxious. The commotion was too great. Guwen dared not let the primordial spirit fly out of the lifespan barrier, fearing it would be detected by divinity transformation realm cultivators nearby. The Supreme Sect surely had divinity transformation realm cultivators. After all, some powerful elders in the outer sect could reach the nascent soul realm, let alone the inner sect and the main city of the sect. He even suspected that the Supreme Sect harbored cultivators in the Void Crossing realm. Otherwise, why would Li Xiandao, who was at the 8th floor of the divinity transformation realm, hide his cultivation? Time continued to pass. An ancient hour later, Gu An's cultivation level had reached the 9th layer of the divinity transformation realm. Suddenly, two figures swept through the night sky, and as he saw their true forms with his bare eyes, he immediately cast lifespan detection. Good heavens! Two nascent soul realm cultivators. Guwen grew even more nervous, praying that no one would notice this patch of forest. The lifespan barrier could make him invisible to the outside world, but what if someone happened to walk through? Strong cultivators kept sweeping overhead, with the lowest cultivation being in the nascent soul realm. Soon he saw figures of the divinity transformation realm, and not just one. Guwen felt like he had poked a hornet's nest, especially as he was pushing towards the Void Crossing realm, requiring even more spiritual energy. This night was bound to be unsettled. It wasn't until dawn that Gu An's cultivation began to slow down. First layer of the Void Crossing realm. Reaching the Void Crossing realm, the primordial spirit could roam 10,000 miles away, and all aspects, whether it be spiritual power, divine sense, perception, or chi blood, would experience a leap in enhancement. Guwen slowly stood up, the sunlight breaking through the sky and illuminating within the life-span barrier, falling on him like a cloak of light. He looked towards the sunrise, wearing a smile. The spiritual power within him was vast and boundless, making him feel invincible. He closed the lifespan barrier and then walked towards Mystic Valley. The lifespan barrier alone had consumed nearly 2,000 years, showcasing just how great a commotion last night had been. With his breakthrough over, the world returned to normal, but the spiritual energy in the forest was far less than the previous day. Even Guwen, who had reached the void-crossing realm, couldn't estimate the amount of spiritual energy absorbed last night. On his way back, Guwen saw great cultivators flying overhead again. From last night till now, he had seen 7 Divinity Transformation Realm cultivators, making him marvel at the depth of the Supreme Sect's foundation. He quickly returned to Mystic Valley and then walked out of the pavilion to call the disciples for their exercises. "Master, the spiritual energy suddenly sank last night. Did you feel it?" Yi Yan asked, frowning as he brought it up. Other disciples also spoke up, expressing their concerns as they had all felt it, fearing the abrupt collapse of Mystic Valley. Guwen laughed and said, "This is the Supreme Sect, the safest place in the Taizong dynasty. How could it collapse?" Upon hearing this, the disciples' concerns eased considerably. Wuxin guessed, it might be related to some formation, probably a great cultivator in the sect breaking through, requiring vast spiritual energy. Clearly, he had encountered this in the Thousand Autumn Pavilion but couldn't say it out loud. "Master, why do you seem somewhat different today?" Zhen Qin stared at Guwen, curiously asking. Guwen rolled his eyes at her and said with exasperation, "Every day you think I change. If you want me to teach you some leg techniques, just say it directly." The other disciples burst into laughter, and Zhen Qin also smiled embarrassedly. The exercises formally began, and during them, Guwen familiarized himself with his new spiritual power. After the exercises, Guwen did not return to his room but walked towards the nearby forest. This time, to break through, he had exhausted quite a lot of medicinal herbs, affecting the harvest for the next 2 years. He had to clear the land to expand more garden areas. Sigh. A mighty void-crossing realm great cultivator planting flowers and herbs for you, the Supreme Sect should indeed be content. Guwen thought happily to himself. As he entered the forest, another cultivator flew overhead, reassuring the disciples in Mystic Valley that the Supreme Sect was indeed paying attention to this matter, not leaving them unattended. By midday, Yilan returned to Mystic Valley. After chatting for a while, she finally managed to separate herself from the group of disciples and followed Guwen to the pavilion above. After closing the door, she also went to close the windows. Moreover, she took out talisman papers and stuck them on the doors and windows. Guwen looked at her nervously and asked, "Junior sister, what are you doing? Should he do it or not?" After completing all the isolation measures, Yilan finally sat at the table, pouring herself some tea as she said, "Senior brother, something major has happened, perhaps the demon lord is about to attack." Guwen was stunned, then sat down, curiously asking, "Who is the demon lord, and from which sect?" Chapter 43. Do you know what realm is above divinity transformation? My master suspects that the silent karma demon lord of the heavenly extinction sect is imminent. Yilan said solemnly. Guwen frowned and asked, "Why make such a conjecture?" Last night, the spiritual energy of the outer sect was drained, and it even affected the inner sect. Coupled with the recent killing of Lin Futian from the Wanyin sect by the flying leaf sword Immortal, all these incidents combined prove that the demon path is preparing to besiege the Supreme Sect. Draining the spiritual energy of the outer sect is the first step in their plan. Among the demon path, only the silent karma demon lord of the heavenly extinction sect can accomplish this. His heaven-swallowing demon skill is said to be able to make the life force of an area disappear within 1,000 miles, Yilan said, a look of fear flashing through her eyes. Guwen was somewhat choked. It was he who killed Lin Futian and did what happened last night. Is the demon path taking the blame for him? Although Guwen was passively forced to become a spy for the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, he never considered himself a demon cultivator. He thought for a moment and comforted her, "Junior sister, don't worry. If the sky falls, the tall ones will hold it up. The Supreme Sect is the #1 sect in the Taizong dynasty. Even if the demon path attacks, how difficult would it be to shake the Supreme Sect?" Yi Lan took a deep breath and looked at Guwen with a determined expression. She bit her lip and said, "Senior brother, let's elope. I am now at the Foundation Establishment realm. We can hide in the uninhabited forests and cultivate in isolation. I will help you reach the Foundation Establishment realm." Guwen almost couldn't keep his expression in check. Good heavens, is she trying to make a lifetime commitment with me by taking advantage of the situation? Guwen said helplessly, "Junior sister, you're exaggerating. Besides, there is no completely safe place in this world. If we hide in the deep mountains and encounter a core formation realm demon cultivator, how can we respond? And you're just speculating. I don't think the demon path will attack. If the demon path really plans to besiege the Supreme Sect, shouldn't they be here by now? Making so much noise and not taking action, are they giving the Supreme Sect time to gather the great cultivators outside?" Yi Lan thought about it and felt it made sense. She thought for a moment and said, "How about you come to the outer sect to lay low with me?" Guwen said seriously, "Junior sister, you really don't need to worry about me. Don't let me affect your cultivation. Remember this, if you truly care about me, then strive to become stronger and take care of me later. This is also for your own good." If an immortal cultivator doesn't prioritize cultivation, they will eventually encounter a situation where they are powerless. Yi Lan felt ashamed, realizing that she was indeed a bit hasty. "Senior brother, I am now at the 9th layer of the energy cultivation realm. It's not that easy for an average demon cultivator to kill me," Guwen said with a proud smile. Yi Lan laughed out loud, then quickly covered her mouth and said, "Senior brother, a demon cultivator daring to infiltrate the Supreme Sect can't possibly be at the energy cultivation realm. Lin Futian, who was killed earlier, was said to be at the Nascent Soul realm." Guwen snorted, "What? A Nascent Soul realm old monster doesn't need to lift a finger to kill me?" Yes, senior brother is the most powerful." Yi Lan laughed, the tension in her heart easing. Then, Guwen inquired about the situation in the outer sect, and Yi Lan did not hide anything, telling him everything in detail. It was not until dusk that Guwen saw her off. Originally, he planned to improve his cultivation and magic tonight, but hearing that the outer sect was already on guard, he dared not act recklessly and decided to lay low first. He still had a doubt in his mind. If he continued to break through while the nearby spiritual energy was drained, what would be the consequences? He guessed that the lifespan barrier might devour spiritual energy from further away, which would cause the Supreme Sect to take serious action. For the next 3 days, Guwen stayed in the Mystic Valley and did not even go to the 8 Sina caves. Sky Dragon had already started cultivating. It didn't need to eat meat for many days, and besides, Guwen had prepared a batch of mature green vine fruits for it, which it could eat when it got hungry. Guwen and Sky Dragon had a soul resonance, so it could remember everything he instructed. Since its birth, it hadn't caused him any trouble and was a child he could rely on. This day at night, Guwen was reading in the attic. With his exceptional 5 elements heavenly spirit root, just one breath could absorb the spiritual energy within a Tenjong radius and convert it into spiritual power very efficiently. Because the spiritual energy of the outer sect was still recovering, he could not cultivate and had to restrain himself. Suddenly, Guwen sensed something and his eyes changed slightly. He did not get up but continued reading. After 30 minutes, a figure appeared outside his window. The person quietly pushed open the window and leaped inside. Guwen immediately threw a lifespan detection toward him. Fuxiong, Foundation Establishment Realm 2nd Layer 160/198/240, after encountering Li Xiandao and Lin Futian, Guwen had become more reliant on lifespan detection because there were too many tricksters in the immortal cultivation world. Fuxiong appeared to be around 50, of average height, dressed in black, with dark circles around his eyes and eagle-like eyes, giving off a feeling of deep scheming. He stood up, looked at Guwen and asked, "Are you the Valley Master?" Guan frowned and asked, I am. Who are you, sir? Fu Xiong did not answer but scrutinized him. After a few seconds, he suddenly said, The 1,000 Autumn Green Vine never regrets. Guan was silent. His divine sense had already spread out, confirming that Fu Xiong came alone. He reluctantly replied, The myriad spells silently seek the root. Upon hearing this, Fu Xiong's face relaxed. He walked to the table and sat down as if he were at home. While pouring himself tea, he asked, Where is Cheng Shendan? Is he dead already? Guan nodded and said, Master has already left. What business do you have with me, senior? Do you know the whereabouts of the green vine tree? Fu Xiong took a sip of tea and asked, eyes scanning the room as he spoke. Aside from books, the room was filled with various medicinal herbs wrapped in spirit protection paper. Seeing that Fu Xiong didn't seem genuinely concerned about the green vine tree, Guan asked, What is the green vine tree? Fu Xiong's eyes returned to Guan as he asked, Your master never told you? Guan shook his head, indicating that he had not. The green vine tree is the holy tree of our 1,000 Autumn Pavilion. Over 200 years ago, our pavilion sent someone to bring a green vine tree to the outer sect of the Supreme Sect. However, as time passed, the clues were lost, and we don't know where the green vine tree is hidden, Fu Xiong said, frowning. It had arrived over 200 years ago? Guan frowned, pondering if Jiang Qiong had concealed something from him. Fu Xiong sighed. To be honest, my master is about to break through to the Divinity transformation realm. Tribulation crossing is extremely perilous. I want to find some green vine fruits to aid him. Guan, intrigued, asked, What is the Divinity transformation realm? Above the foundation establishment is the core formation, and above that is the nascent soul. The stage beyond the nascent soul is Divinity transformation, Fu Xiong said, stroking his beard with a smile, as if he were the one about to break through. Is the tribulation crossing for nascent soul realm cultivators also dangerous? I heard that the nascent soul is already equivalent to an immortal. Guan said in astonishment. Immortal? Still far from it. Foundation establishment to core formation also needs tribulation crossing. Any tribulation crossing is dangerous, a life or death situation. The higher the realm, the more perilous the lightning tribulation. My master has been preparing for 10 years to overcome it, Fu Xiong said, his face showing signs of longing. Guan asked, What preparations are needed? Can't you just directly undergo the tribulation crossing? How can that be possible? One must prepare elixirs to maintain spiritual power and heal injuries, have formations to support, and carry several sets of magic artifacts. I've never heard of anyone undergoing the tribulation directly. Fu Xiong glared at Guan, thinking his questions were too foolish. Guan felt much relieved after hearing this. Fu Xiong suddenly smiled. I see you have quite a few medicinal herbs in your medicine valley. Why not become my disciple? In the future, I will support you and teach you magic. Every year, you just need to offer me 30% of Medicine Valley's yield. How about it? Guan frowned again. Fu Xiong whispered, Kid, my master, which is your martial master, is in the inner sect. Once he breaks through to divinity transformation, he will definitely become an elder. By then, whatever you want, you will get. Guan widened his eyes, asking in surprise, If Senior's master can become an inner sect elder, doesn't that mean he has been lurking for many years? Why doesn't he know the whereabouts of the green vine tree? It's a long story. Let's discuss the matter of becoming my disciple first. Fu Xiong said in a low voice. Guan hesitated. Is this senior master's intention? How could it be? My master doesn't even know him in this Medicine Valley. Kid, you're just a servant disciple. How could someone as important as my master pay any attention to you? Fu Xiong was very displeased. Guan stood up, looking down at him, and asked, One last question. Fu Xiong frowned and said in a deep voice, What question? He really wanted to kill this kid in front of him. So much nonsense. Do you know what realm is above divinity transformation? What? Fu Xiong was stunned, then suddenly enraged. How would he know the realm above divinity transformation? He thought the other was toying with him. Just as he was about to stand, Gu Annis' right hand was already pressing down on his head. He looked up and saw that Gu Annis' face was extremely cold, his eyes flashing with a chilling light, and his entire aura had dramatically changed. At this moment, Fu Xiong felt like he was facing his master. No, his master wasn't this terrifying. He wanted to speak, but his consciousness quickly plunged into blankness, his eyes becoming vacant. Guwen was using the soul-capturing skill. Although he previously couldn't master it, now with his exceptional 5 elements heavenly spirit root, he understood it quickly. Though not very proficient, it was enough to deal with Fu Xiong. His spiritual power suppressed Fu Xiong, and his divine sense forcefully intruded into Fu Xiong's mind, searching aggressively. An hour later, Fu Xiong had already perished. Guwen reopened his eyes, breathing a sigh of relief. This guy really didn't know the whereabouts of the green vine tree and wasn't sent by his master. Guwen moved his right hand upward, lifting Fu Xiong into the air. Spirit power fire emerged from his palm, starting to incinerate the other's body. He closed his eyes, not daring to watch the gruesome spectacle. The spirit fire of the void-crossing realm was immensely powerful. In under 4 breaths, Fu Xiong turned to ashes, leaving only a storage bag. He gained 4 years of lifespan as a result. Guwen checked it out, taking all the medicinal herbs and spirit stones inside. As for magic artifacts and talisman paper, fearing someone might track them, he burned them along with the storage bag. The next morning, Guwen descended as if nothing had happened. When the disciples gathered for practice, he felt a pang of guilt. Damn, my actions are becoming like those of the demon path. Thus, a whole month passed without any Thousand Autumn Pavilion cultivators coming to find Guwen, allowing him to relax. One day, Di came by, and the two had a conversation in the attic. The third miss has mastered the Qilin step, and the clan leader is very pleased. He plans to celebrate her achievement with a banquet in the inner sect, and all Ji family servants must attend to help welcome the guests. In 10 days, meet me in front of the outer sect law enforcement hall. Prepare a batch of medicinal herbs as a gift. You might even earn the third miss favor, Du Yi said earnestly. Guwen nodded, coming to a decision in his heart. Tonight, he would practice 8 direction step. Let's see how strong Ji Xiaoyu's Qilin step really is. Chapter 44, Supreme Mastery of Magic. Teleportation array. He came quickly and left just as fast. Guwen could feel his excitement, as if he truly considered himself a member of the Ji family. Guwen was also very interested in the inner sect, and taking advantage of this opportunity to visit the inner sect through the Ji family banquet was a good thing. He planned to gather more spirit stones in the coming days, so he could make some purchases when he got to the inner sect. By the time nightfall came, Guwen quietly left Mystic Valley, heading in the opposite direction of where he had broken through before. After traveling roughly 50 miles, he finally stopped. He sat before a mountain wall and summoned his attribute panel. He directly looked at the 8 direction step, investing 5,000 years of lifespan into it. This was a movement technique that not only helped in combat but also in escaping, so it had to be improved. As his thoughts settled, one line of prompts after another appeared. You have invested 5,000 years of lifespan in the 8 direction step for evolutionary cultivation. You practiced the 8 direction step for 1 year, successfully mastering it. You practiced the 8 direction step for 10 years. Your understanding of it reached a peak. Your comprehension of movement technique improved. You practiced the 8 direction step for 50 years. You had an epiphany. Your 8 direction step advanced to the mysterious 8 direction step. You practiced the 8 direction step for 100 years. Your understanding of the mysterious 8 direction step reached a peak. Your comprehension of movement technique improved. You practiced the 8 direction step for 300 years. Your mysterious 8 direction step returned to simplicity. You captured a thread of space truth. Your mysterious 8 direction step advanced to the Qilin step. You practiced the 8 direction step for 1,000 years. Your Qilin step returned to simplicity. Your comprehension of movement technique and space improved. Your Qilin step advanced to the Heavenly Dragon Mystic True step. You practiced the 8 direction step for 4,000 years. Your persistent cultivation finally received heaven and earth's response. Your Heavenly Dragon Mystic True Step broke the limit and advanced to the Infinite Traceless Mystic Heaven Step. You practiced the 8 Directions Step for 5,000 years. Your Infinite Traceless Mystic Heaven Step reached Mastery Realm. Your comprehension of space improved. 8 Directions Step, Mysterious 8 Directions Step, Qilin Step, Heavenly Dragon Mystic True Step, Infinite Traceless Mystic Heaven Step. Gu felt a surge of excitement, and a vast amount of memories began to flood into his mind. He quickly activated the lifespan barrier and immersed himself into his inheritance. An hour later, Gu opened his eyes. He first looked at the lifespan barrier. It had only consumed 200 years of his lifespan. Although inheriting cultivation techniques and spells did not increase one's cultivation level, it still required absorbing spiritual energy, because during evolutionary cultivation, no matter what one practiced, one was always in an environment rich in spiritual energy. Compared to his previous breakthrough to the void-crossing realm, the spiritual energy he absorbed this time was not much. Gu looked back at his attribute panel, deep in thought. He surely needed to improve his cultivation level, but he wanted to avoid unnecessary attention for now. Moreover, he wanted to enhance his cultivation techniques before his cultivation level, planning to check if the inner sect had any 5-element skills. If not, he would grit his teeth and further the divine wood pure yang skill to the end. After a moment of consideration, Gu decided to invest in the secret technique, the Demon Shadow Divine Skill, taught by Jiang Qiong from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Jiang Qiong said this secret technique was very suitable for espionage, and he wanted to see how suitable it was. He would make a small investment, just 2,000 years of lifespan. You have invested 2,000 years of lifespan in the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for evolutionary cultivation. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 10 years, and you began to master it. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 100 years, and it reached the Mastery Realm. Your speed in casting it increased. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 200 years, it reached the peak, and your comprehension of movement technique improved. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 500 years, it returned to simplicity and advanced to the Freedom Demon Body Skill. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 1,000 years, your Freedom Demon Body Skill reached the peak, and your comprehension of movement technique and causality improved. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 1,300 years, your Freedom Demon Body Skill returned to simplicity, advancing to the Great Yin-Yang Transformation. You practiced the Demon Shadow Divine Skill for 2,000 years, your Great Yin-Yang Transformation reached the peak, and your comprehension of movement technique and causality improved. Demon Shadow Divine Skill, Freedom Demon Body Skill, Great Yin-Yang Transformation. It only advanced twice, indicating that this secret technique was indeed extraordinary. Jiang Qiong had not lied to him. Gu immediately activated the lifespan barrier, immersing his consciousness into the inheritance. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes, a look of joy in them. This secret technique was indeed perfect for espionage. The Demon Shadow Divine Skill could cover the practitioner's body with demonic qi, forming a demonic shadow that even divine sense could not penetrate. The Great Yin-Yang Transformation was even more exaggerated. It could not be forcibly dispelled, allowing the practitioner to maintain the demonic shadow state until death, without revealing their true form even after death. The most crucial part was that this technique could not be deduced, and neither magic artifacts nor Dharma treasures could reveal the true form. It was incredibly tyrannical. With this skill, Gu could accomplish many things in the future. Especially when combined with the Infinite Traceless Mystic Heaven Step, it was unbeatable. The Infinite Traceless Mystic Heaven Step contained the mystery of the teleportation divine power, and each step could bring forth a Dharma aspect, capable of evasion and attack, infinitely mysterious. Gu once again summoned his attribute panel, looking satisfied. Name, Gu, Lifespan, 34/30823, Spirit Root, Supreme 5 Elements Heavenly Spirit Root, Cultivation Level, Void Crossing Realm First Layer, Cultivation Techniques, Fire Control Art, Unmastered, Divine Wood Pure Yang Skill, Mastery, Mystic Yellow Dragon Energy Skill, Peak, Alchemy, Initial Insight, Myriad Poison Mystic Skill, Unmastered, Yin Yang Art, Unmastered. Ultimate Skills, Gale Shadowless Leg, Proficient, Taitsung Divine Shocking Sword, Proficient, Infinite Traceless. Mystic Heaven Step, Mastery, Great Yin Yang Transformation, Peak, Wood Spirit Sword Technique, Beginner, Ziwei Array Chronicles, Beginner. Spells, Soul Capturing Skill, Beginner, Sword Control Technique, Proficient, Enchanting Eyes, Unmastered, Poison Wood Array, Initial Insight, Wind Control Skill, Proficient, Corpse Control Skill, Unmastered. Divine Skills, Mystic Yellow Dragon Might, Minor Achievement. Tonight's harvest was quite fruitful. Guwen deactivated the lifespan barrier, then stood up, taking a step forward. His figure vanished into thin air, reappearing in an instant several dozen feet away in the dense forest, then took another step and disappeared again. He seemed to be flickering continuously, showcasing the wonders of the infinite traceless Mystic Heaven Step, and this was just a small try. The maximum distance he could cross was far greater than this. Soon he returned to Mystic Valley. At noon, with the sun shining brightly, Guwen stood in the city, looking at the towering buildings around him with curiosity in his eyes. The street he stood on was bustling with people, and there were even demon beasts in sight. In the sky, numerous cultivators were flying to and fro. Just this city alone probably had hundreds of thousands of people. The Supreme Sect had 4 inner sect cities, each with hundreds of thousands of disciples. It was truly astonishing. Guwen suddenly felt he had underestimated the strength of the Supreme Sect and the vastness of the Taitsong dynasty. The 10-day period had already arrived. Long before yesterday, Guwen had gone to the outer sect, where he had to assist the outer disciples in managing their caves. By the time he was done, it was already daylight, and by noon today, he found Yi, and the two of them used a teleportation array to reach the inner sect city directly. According to what Yi said, the outer sect city was thousands of miles away from the inner sect city, with the middle area inhabited by demon beasts raised by the Supreme Sect, along with some secret realms for disciples to train in and the Medicine Valley where high-rank medicinal herbs were cultivated. The teleportation array is a good thing, I must study it thoroughly. Guwen thought to himself. He had just asked Yi, and in the inner sect, everything was available for purchase, including formations, provided he had enough spirit stones or spirit energy elixirs. In the immortal cultivation world, spirit energy elixirs were also a form of currency, capable of restoring a cultivator's spiritual power and serving as a substitute for spirit stones. Various sects had standardized the specifications for spirit energy elixirs, and each elixir contained spiritual energy equivalent to a low-grade spirit stone, with the same value. Since Li Xiandao invited him to manage the Medicine Valley, he had considered expanding the Medicine Valley. If every Medicine Valley had a teleportation array, it would be much more convenient. Guwen, hurry up. Yi urged ahead, and Guwen quickly followed his pace. Along the way, Yi introduced the buildings they passed. Guwen listened attentively, planning to explore thoroughly in the coming days. The Ji family banquet would take days to conclude, so he had plenty of time to look around. Guwen was not only listening but also performing lifespan detection. He did not see anyone in the Foundation Establishment realm. The worst cultivation level he saw was in the Core Formation realm. However, these Core Formation realm disciples were all over 200 years old. Walking through a few streets, Guwen finally detected someone in the Foundation Establishment realm. That person was only 40 years old and already in the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment realm, clearly a genius who entered the inner sect based on spirit root qualifications. Yi seemed to be intentionally broadening Guwen's horizons, walking at a slow pace, which Guwen appreciated. An hour later, they arrived at a mansion, vast in size. The courtyard walls extended for miles, and the plaque above the gate had 2 large characters written on it. Ji Mansion. Oh dear, how bold. Could it be that all the Ji family's inner sect disciples lived here? Guwen secretly wondered, having a bad intuition. If things continued like this, there would come a day when the Supreme Sect would suppress the Ji family. By then, he would truly become a spy for the Ji family. Although he was currently affiliated with the Supreme Sect, in his heart, the Ji family was certainly more important. The Ji family raised him, allowing him to grow into an adult and leading him to join the Supreme Sect, the #1 sect. Such kindness could not be repaid merely by offering low-rank medical herbs. Of course, Guwen would not actively repay the Ji family, but if the Ji family needed him, as long as it was not excessive, he would not refuse. 2 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators guarded the gate of Ji Mansion. Guwen initiated lifespan detection and noted their ages were over 100 years, clearly not geniuses, likely house servants like Guwen and Duyi. Duyi immediately stepped forward, presenting his token with humility, nodding and bowing. Then you shall take over from us. When night falls, we'll take you to your residence. Zhang Yan, one of the Foundation Establishment realm cultivators, said thoughtfully. Duyi dared not refuse and immediately accepted. And so, Guwen and Duyi began their guarding duty upon arrival. Standing before a Qilin stone statue, Guwen suddenly had an idea. You cover for me. I'll give you 100 low-grade spirit stones. I want to buy some medicinal herb seeds in the inner sect. It's also for the 3rd Miss task, Guwen said. Upon hearing this, Duyi hesitated but could not refuse. 100 low-grade spirit stones. This kid was really generous. So, after Guwen handed over 100 low-grade spirit stones to Duyi, he left and began wandering around the inner sect city alone. He had not gone far when a voice called out, "Guwen, what are you doing here?" Chapter 45. Why don't you acknowledge me as your master? Guwen turned his head and saw Zuolin, Li Ya's childhood friend, walking towards him. After many years, Zuolin's cultivation level was only at the 3rd layer of the Foundation Establishment realm, likely still obsessively practicing his swordsmanship. Guwen turned to him, clasped his hands in greeting and said, "The family summoned me to do some work, so I came." "You still have a family? Weren't you born a house servant?" Zuolin asked curiously. Guwen replied, "I am indeed a house servant of the Ji family. Our 3rd Miss is about to hold a banquet, so I came along with other house servants to assist." "What? You're from the Ji family?" Zuolin's eyes widened. Guwen countered, "Didn't senior brother Li tell you?" Zuolin shook his head and said, "He didn't. That's quite a coincidence. My father was also invited by the Ji family, and I came along for the fun. Isn't the Ji mansion in the back? Where are you heading?" He had always been very interested in Guwen and felt that Guwen was not simple, so he didn't want to miss this rare encounter. "I'm planning to stroll around the inner sect city. Then I'll accompany you. Although I'm not an inner sect disciple, I've come here quite often, thanks to my father," Zuolin said enthusiastically, and Guwen did not refuse. The two chatted while walking forward. Zuolin talked about his father, and through his words, Guwen gained a deeper understanding of the hierarchy within the Supreme Sect. Generally, once a disciple reached a certain realm, they would move upwards, but some people chose the path of power, like Zuoijin, who entered the Hall of Elders. Unlike other departments, the Hall of Elders was the power center of a city. The threshold for the outer sect Hall of Elders was the core formation realm, while the threshold for the inner sect Hall of Elders was the Divinity transformation realm. The Hall of Elders had absolute power in each city. It was said that in the main city of the sect, the power of the Hall of Elders was even higher, capable of deciding the position of the sect leader. Therefore, some nascent soul realm cultivators chose to stay in the outer sect as elders to continue benefiting themselves. Zuoijin had come to the inner sect but could not yet join the Hall of Elders, so he became the head of the inner sect's book collection hall, which was quite a prestigious position. "It's all the fault of the flying leaf sword Immortal, who made my father obsessed. Now he's always holding on to the investiture of the gods and never practices his swordsmanship," Zuolin said indignantly. Guwen asked, "Do you not find the investiture of the gods good?" "It's excellent. Let me tell you, I like Yang Jian the most." Why isn't he a sword cultivator? When it came to the investiture of the gods, Zuolin became even more talkative. Guwen secretly marveled, realizing that he had underestimated the impact of the investiture of the gods on the immortal cultivation world. Listening to Zuolin praising Pan and Guin initially felt a secret pleasure, but as it went on he lost interest, as he was not the real author. He wrote books mainly to earn spirit stones. Following that, Guin asked Zuolin to take him to the Scripture Pavilion. The main difference between the Scripture Pavilion and the Book Collection Pavilion was that the Scripture Pavilion housed all kinds of cultivation techniques and spells. On the way, Guin asked about the 5-element skill, only to be met with contempt from Zuolin. In the immortal cultivation world, most cultivation techniques focused on a single attribute, even if one possessed multiple spirit roots. Only a few would choose to retrain a different technique. Relearning a cultivation technique, although the realm remained, the process of reaccumulating spiritual power was enough to drive most cultivators crazy. Immortal cultivation was not like martial arts. It required years to accumulate power. No one wanted to retrace decades or even centuries, let alone those old monsters who had cultivated for thousands of years. They would only grit their teeth and push forward, delving deeply into one path, which was why the traditions of immortal cultivation was so diverse. Upon arriving at the Scripture Pavilion, Guin indeed did not find any 5-element skills, but he still bought basic skills for the other 4 attributes, choosing the cheapest ones, as he could use life force to enhance them. Spirit stones should be primarily used to buy seeds. Zuolin was puzzled why he was buying skills of different attributes, to which he replied they were for the disciples, earning Zuolin's respect. Back in Mystic Valley, Zuolin could sense his attitude towards the servant disciples. Guin didn't just curry favor with the imperial family's Liya, he was also very kind to those of lower status. Perhaps Liya was right, he was indeed a good person. Zuolin thought so, looking at Guin's profile. "Brother Zua, could you take me to see the formations?" Guin asked with a smile. Upon hearing this, Zuolin immediately agreed. However, Guin felt a bit disappointed with the result. There were transmission arrays, but the prices were exorbitant. He couldn't afford them at all. He had to consider it another day. Although he was a void-crossing realm cultivator, he couldn't just rob them. Upon entering the inner sect, Guin felt that the Supreme Sect must have hidden void-crossing realm cultivators. After all, the threshold for inner sect elders was the Divinity transformation realm, and above that was the main city of the sect. Upon careful thought, the Supreme Sect was indeed powerful. So many demon cultivators had died in the outer sect, yet the demon path didn't dare launch an attack against the Supreme Sect. Furthermore, even spies like Jiang Qiong in the core formation realm only dared operate outside the outer sect. If the Supreme Sect was a large map, Guin was only active in a small corner. Up until evening, Guin said goodbye to Zuolin and returned to the entrance of the Ji mansion, where Di was still waiting, making him feel somewhat touched. "Why did you come back so late? Without me, you wouldn't be able to get in." Di complained. Guin smiled, patted him on the shoulder, and without saying much, the two walked into the Ji mansion. As soon as he entered, Guin sensed multiple auras. It turned out that the Ji mansion also had isolating restrictions. He even detected the aura of a divinity transformation realm. Along the way, he cast life span detection on everyone he encountered. There were many people in the Ji mansion, and many of them were geniuses. Although Ji Xiaoyu only brought 5 people into the Supreme Sect, the Ji family had multiple branches, and each year, there were always new members entering various sections. After half an hour, Di brought Guin to see Ji Lin, this renowned outer sect genius. Ji Lin, Foundation Establishment Realm 9th Layer 36/330/900, 36 years old and at the 9th layer of the Foundation Establishment Realm, very strong. He likely took a lot of elixirs. Guin thought while looking at Ji Lin, who took out the prepared medicinal herbs. Ji Lin was not arrogant and had a good attitude towards Guin. He painted a rosy picture for Guin, who pretended to be excited, making this meeting end perfectly. Afterward, Di brought Guin to their residence. The two lived in the same courtyard, but each had their own room. A quiet night passed. Early the next morning, just as the sky got light, Di pulled Guin out of the courtyard. The two waited at the main gate. They weren't the only ones. There were a dozen cultivators waiting too. Under the leader's arrangement, they stood in 2 rows, preparing to welcome the prestigious guests for today's banquet. An hour later, guests began to arrive. The first was a nascent soul realm cultivator. After that person entered the mansion, Guin overheard other house servants discussing that he was from the inner Sect law enforcement hall, a figure of considerable power. As time went on, more guests arrived. Each leading figure of the groups had a minimum cultivation level of the nascent soul realm, and there were quite a few from the divinity transformation realm as well. No wonder Li Xiandao had to hide his cultivation level. Though he was at the 8th layer of the divinity transformation realm, he was still far from invincible. One person's arrival caught Gu An's attention. It was Luo Xuanye, Fuxiang's master. Gu An remembered his face from searching Fuxiang's soul. Luo Xuanye, Nascent Soul Realm 9th Layer 254/804/1300, 254 years old and at the 9th layer of the Nascent Soul Realm, he was quite the genius. The Ji family representative attending to the guests was clearly on good terms with Luo Xuanye. They exchanged pleasantries for a while. Who would have thought this man was a demon cultivator? Guin thought silently. Throughout, he never spoke, just stood there quietly, which was quite relaxing. Another half-hour passed, and Guin spotted another spy from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Jiang Qiong, Nascent Soul Realm 1st Layer 192/700/2490, 7 years without seeing her, and she had managed to successfully pass the tribulation. Jiang Qiong wore the attire of an inner Sect disciple, her expression cold and devoid of the flirtatiousness she had when facing Guin before. She merely glanced at Guin, and the two had no interaction as she entered the Ji mansion. Why is she here? It shouldn't be just to celebrate, right? Guin pondered in confusion. Would Jiang Qiong scheme against the Ji family? Suddenly, a voice full of joy caught Guin's attention. He saw Gu Yu, whom he had met once at the book collection hall in the outer Sect, walking towards him quickly. Behind Gu Yu was a middle-aged man dressed in luxurious clothing, exuding an extraordinary aura, although his breath was faint, clearly the result of some energy-concealing sorcery. Guin instinctively cast lifespan detection. Gu Zong, Void Crossing Realm 2nd Layer 690/1805/2800, what a guy. Void Crossing Realm. Sure enough, the Supreme Sect had concealed Void Crossing Realm cultivators. This man's surname was also Gu, obviously sharing blood with Gu Yu. Guin had suspected that Gu Yu was no ordinary person. Guin, are you of the Ji family? Gu Yu asked excitedly as he approached Guin. Guin nodded and said, I am merely a house servant. With your talent, why be a house servant? I'll have my father bring you into the inner Sect. Gu Yu said grandly, drawing the attention of the nearby Ji family members. Gu Yu turned to Gu Zong and said, Father, this is the person I often mention. Take him under your wing. The cultivators behind Gu Zong, all at the Nascent Soul and Divinity Transformation realms, curiously studied Guin upon hearing this. How did it come to this guy? Guin cursed inwardly. Gu Zong frowned and said, Such behavior in public is unbecoming. Guin breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, a great cultivator knew not to break the rules in public. Gu Zong looked at Guin, and his severe expression suddenly softened, replaced by a warm smile. He said, Little friend, I am Gu Zong. Would you accept me as your master? This statement caused everyone to react dramatically. Dee looked at Guin in disbelief. The breath Guin had just released was held again. Senior, my spirit root qualification is mediocre. I'm afraid I'm not suitable to be your disciple, Guin said helplessly. Gu Zong smiled and said, I choose my disciples based on fate, not qualifications. What you've written is quite good, I like it a lot. In front of everyone, how could Guin agree? Furthermore, he didn't like to have a master of the same realm. He had been forced to accept Qing Xiandan as his master back then. I need to discuss this with someone. I hope you understand, Elder, Guin said, taking a deep breath and feigning difficulty. Hearing this, Gu Zong laughed aloud. As he walked inside, he patted Guwen's shoulder and left these words before entering the G mansion. After the banquet, we'll have a proper talk. You don't have to be my disciple. Help me with one thing, and I'll fulfill any request you have. Guyu winked at Guwen before following in his father's footsteps. After this group of guests entered, the surrounding Ji family members gathered around, asking what Guwen had written to earn Gu Zong's favor. An elderly cultivator jokingly said, "Could it be that the investiture of the gods was written by you?" Guwen smiled and said, "I wish I had written it." Yi snorted, "How could he possibly have written the investiture of the gods? It's probably something related to planting medicinal herbs." Others joined in the ribbing. After this episode, Guwen's presence skyrocketed. Just when Guwen was looking for a way to escape, a Ji family cultivator came out from the mansion and said, "Who is Guwen? The third miss requests your presence." Chapter 46, Primordial Daoist Talisman, Demon Path Ambition. "He's Guwen." Yi gave Guwen a push, making Guwen stagger slightly. Then he looked at the summoning cultivator and said, Guwen, come on." The cultivator responded, then turned and walked toward the mansion. Guwen followed his steps, puzzled, wondering what Ji Xiaoyu wanted with him. He had very little interaction with Ji Xiaoyu in his childhood since their statuses were vastly different. After Guwen left, the Ji family cultivators guarding the gate gathered around Yi. Inquiring about Guwen's expression became somewhat unnatural as he answered them one by one. Meanwhile, Guwen followed the summoning cultivator for 2 miles before arriving at Ji Xiaoyu's courtyard. The summoning cultivator stopped outside the courtyard gate, raised his hand to signal Guwen to enter the courtyard, then turned and left. Guwen could already sense Ji Xiaoyu's presence. By his judgment, Ji Xiaoyu was also at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm but was much stronger than Ji Lin. He stepped into the courtyard, which was filled with a bamboo grove and spring scenery, although it was autumn. Walking along the bamboo grove's path, he soon saw a pool surrounded by white spirit mist. In the mist, a figure was sitting and cultivating, vaguely revealing it to be a woman. As he approached, he clasped his hands in salute toward Ji Xiaoyu in the pool and said, "Guwen greets the 3rd Mississippi." Ji Xiaoyu, dressed in green, sat cross-legged, hovering above the pool's surface, her hands forming a mudra on her knees. Her long hair was tied atop her head with 3 pearl-inlaid hairpins, with 2 strands of hair drifting beside her cheeks. Her forehead was white and bright like jade, with a faint red line appearing indistinctly. In terms of features, only Jiang Qiong could compare in Guwen's mind. Unlike Jiang Qiong's ambiguous, enchanting aura, Ji Xiaoyu was like a celestial maiden descended from the heavens. There was no emotion on her face, exuding an untouchable, sacred aura. Guwen recalled the scene when he first met Ji Xiaoyu as a child. Even then, he felt Ji Xiaoyu was not like other children. Her eyes seemed seasoned by the years. He immediately used a lifespan detection skill. Ji Xiaoyu, Foundation Establishment Realm Level 934/830/8900, what the hell? An extreme lifespan of 8,900 years? The most crucial part was that she was only at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. How could she have an 830-year lifespan? Guwen was shocked, suddenly thinking that Ji Xiaoyu was not just a dual spirit root. You did well earlier. After the banquet, you should meet Gu Zong. You can apprentice under him. Ji Xiaoyu spoke without opening her eyes. Her voice was melodious, gentle, yet authoritative. This guy actually eavesdropped on the conversation at the gate. Guwen inwardly scoffed, but outwardly he replied, "Third Miss, I truly do not wish to apprentice under him. I can see his identity is not simple, and his cultivation must be high. However, I have mediocre talent. If I apprentice under a renowned master, I might get into trouble. I just want to stay in my medicine valley and live out my days peacefully, contributing a batch of medicinal herbs to 3rd Miss annually, which already satisfies me." Upon hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu opened her eyes. The mist before her dispersed, and she turned her head, giving Guwen a sideways glance. The corners of her eyes seemed drawn with a single stroke, slightly raised, adding a touch of intensity to her soft eyes. Her bright eyes seemed to want to see through Gu-en's heart. Gu-en slightly lowered his head, avoiding direct eye contact. It wasn't out of fear. It was just that his current apparent identity was a house servant at the 9th level of the energy cultivation realm. He had to keep up the act. Then don't apprentice, but you still have to meet Guzong since he wants to see you. This matter proves to be difficult for you, so tell me, is there anything I can do for you? It'll certainly help if I can, Ji Xiaoyu said softly. Perhaps it was because Ji Xiaoyu saved Gu-en when they were young that Gu-en had a favorable impression of her. Hence, after hearing her words, he didn't hold back, saying, "Third Miss, my Mystic Valley is too small. I want to plant more medicinal herbs. Can you help me get another Medicine Valley? But please, don't move me from Mystic Valley. I can't bear to leave my hard work behind." Hearing this, Ji Xiaoyu fell into silence. Gu-en wasn't in a hurry, patiently waiting for her response. If she couldn't help, he could always rely on Guzong. He could roughly guess why Guzong wanted to meet him. What would a writer be needed for? Ji Xiaoyu finally spoke. "I can't fully promise regarding the Medicine Valley. This area isn't the Ji family's land, and you don't want to leave your Mystic Valley. I will give it my best shot. Besides, you can make another request." Gu-en immediately said, "Could you get me a teleportation array formation to connect both Medicine Valleys, making travel easier?" "That's not difficult. After the banquet concludes, you'll have someone deliver it to you." "Thank you, Third Miss." Gu-en smiled, clasping his hands in a salute again. Ji Xiaoyu closed her eyes and asked, "By the way, what exactly did you write that made Guzong value you so much, even wanting to accept you as his disciple?" Gu-en thought for a moment, realizing that there was no hiding it. He decided to be honest since Ji Xiaoyu might investigate him later anyway. By being straightforward, he could have the Ji family's protection. Investiture of the gods. When Gu-en uttered these 4 words, Ji Xiaoyu's eyes widened, looking at him with amazement. "You wrote Investiture of the Gods? How do you know so much?" Ji Xiaoyu asked with a frown. Gu-en sighed helplessly, "I made it up. It's not real." Currently, many people believed that Investiture of the Gods depicted ancient history. Even people like Suolin and Wuxing thought so, and it made Gu-en anxious for a while. If he hadn't checked the Outer Sect's book collection hall and found no records related to Huaxia, he might have believed Investiture of the Gods was real. Made up? But the world you describe is so vast, and those Daoist sorceries are fascinating, Ji Xiaoyu said softly. Clearly, she also enjoyed reading Investiture of the Gods. Gu-en pretended to be awkward, unsure of how to respond. "You mustn't tell anyone else about this. The impact of Investiture of the Gods is immense. The name of Pan and has spread throughout the Taizong dynasty, and other sects are looking for you," Ji Xiaoyu warned. She thought for a moment, then raised her right hand. The jade ring on her middle finger glowed, and a small bronze sword appeared in her palm. "This is a talisman treasure. You only need to infuse spiritual power to activate it. It can kill core formation realm cultivators. Keep it for self-defense." Ji Xiaoyu's words made Gu-en take a closer look at the bronze sword. It was his first time encountering such a talisman treasure. Jiang Qiong had once mentioned that talisman treasures couldn't acknowledge a master and required stored spiritual power to be used. They were usually given by great cultivators to their juniors for protection. He hadn't expected to receive one today. He didn't refuse and accepted the bronze sword. "Go rest in your room. You don't need to guard the gates anymore." Ji Xiaoyu closed her eyes again, her tone returning to its earlier indifference. Gu-en raised his hand in a salute, then turned and left. After leaving the courtyard, Gu-en was secretly curious. He sensed something indescribable and elusive from Ji Xiaoyu that made one inexplicably want to possess it. He didn't dwell on it further and walked toward his own courtyard. As more guests arrived, the Ji mansion became livelier, with people everywhere. Cultivators in the Divinity transformation realm chatted and laughed with nascent soul cultivators accompanying them, while those in the core formation realm bustled about, highlighting the stark status differences brought by cultivation levels in the Ji mansion. As Gu-en walked, he suddenly saw someone. Jiang Qiong. The two met in a corridor, facing each other. Gu-wen remained calm, his expression unchanged, and Jiang Qiong did the same. They brushed past each other, their shoulders almost touching. Suddenly, Gu-wen felt a jade pendant being slipped into his left hand. Use your divine sense to examine it in your room. Pretend we don't know each other. Jiang Qiong's voice echoed in Gu-en's ear. She used the sound transmission skill. Gu-wen clenched the jade pendant in his hand and walked away without looking back. The two parted ways as if they were strangers. In his room, Gu-wen sat in meditation on his bed, clutching the jade pendant in his left hand with the back of his hand facing upwards. Even inside, he didn't let the pendant be exposed. He directed his divine sense into the jade pendant, soon frowning. Inside the pendant was a remnant of Jiang Qiong's divine sense, explaining why she had come to the Ji mansion. Jiang Qiong's target this time was Ji Xiaoyu. Not only her, but the Thousand Autumn Pavilion and other demonic path sects had also sent spies to seize the primordial Daoist talisman within Ji Xiaoyu. The primordial Daoist talisman was a unique power akin to a bloodline, inherent from birth. But once the possessor formed a core, the talisman would appear on the golden core. At this point, if the golden core was snatched, the talisman would leave the cultivator's body. According to Jiang Qiong, the Daoist talisman was an extremely rare phenomenon, encountered once in a millennium, even rarer than the heavenly spirit root, and held profound fate-altering capabilities. No wonder Ji Xiaoyu's lifespan was so absurd. It was because of the primordial Daoist talisman. Gu-wen found himself in a dilemma. On one side was Jiang Qiong, and on the other was Ji Xiaoyu. Who should he support? Forget it. He decided not to get involved. Jiang Qiong wouldn't act until Ji Xiaoyu formed her core, and by then he would be back in the Mystic Valley. He was very curious about the primordial Daoist talisman. The mysterious energy he had sensed from Ji Xiaoyu, was that the talisman's aura? Even a great cultivator in the void-crossing realm like him couldn't help but desire it, indicating the immense power contained within the talisman. As time passed, the banquet proceeded smoothly, with the lurking demon cultivators making no rash moves. At midday, Ji Xiaoyu demonstrated the Qilin step for the guests, and Gu-wen witnessed this from the courtyard. Ji Xiaoyu stepped out from the courtyard, each step ascending towards the sky. With every step, a Qilin Dharma aspect appeared beneath her feet. After 7 steps, the Qilin Dharma aspect enveloped her figure, making it seem like 7 dark red Qilins stood in the air. Quite a spectacular sight. With his enhanced vision, Gu-wen could tell that Ji Xiaoyu could take 2 more steps. 9 steps were her current limit with the Qilin step. However, the ultimate limit of the Qilin step wasn't 9 steps. When practiced to the peak creation realm, one could take 1,000 steps, with 1,000 Qilins acting like clones to either attack or confuse the enemy. Nevertheless, Ji Xiaoyu achieving the Qilin step by 34 was indeed impressive. With it, she could easily dominate those at the same cultivation level. In the evening, Di brought Gu Zong and Gu Yu to find Gu-wen. Di left after showing the way, not daring to interfere. An hour later, Gu Zong left with a satisfied smile. Gu-wen escorted them to the courtyard gate. Gu Yu turned back, winking at Gu-wen. Remember, in my story, I must have many beautiful companions. They'll find you within half a year, and the Medicine Valley I promised won't be small. Chapter 47 Demon Shadow Divine Skill, First Showing of Divine Might. The purpose of Gu Zong seeking out Gu-wen was to have him write his deeds into a book. Naturally, Gu-wen did not refuse. After all, it was not as if he were asked to write Gu Zong as the protagonist of the investiture of the gods. In exchange, Gu Zong would promote Gu-en's status to an outer disciple and grant him a Medicine Valley twice the size of Mystic Valley. Half a year later, Gu-yu would bring the items to Gu-wen. Writing a book in exchange for a Medicine Valley, Gu-wen thought it was a good deal, especially since he usually had nothing to do. That night, after Du-yi returned to the house, he asked Gu-wen what Gu Zong had wanted from him. Sect secrets, are you sure you want a probe? Gu-wen asked meaningfully, scaring Du-yi so much that he shuddered and dared not ask again. The next morning, after the guests from Ji Mansion left, A cultivator approached Guin and handed him a storage bag, saying it was from the 3rd Mississippi. Guin scanned it with his divine sense and found it contained materials for formations, quite abundant ones. Guin hesitated whether to remind Ji Xiaoyu, but seeing that the number of Ji family cultivators present today had not decreased but increased, with many even meditating on the eaves, he knew the Ji family had already sensed danger. Since that was the case, he did not need to worry about it. At midday, Guin followed Du Yi, still returning to the outer gate city via the teleportation array. After bidding farewell to Du Yi, Guin headed towards Mystic Valley. He had already begun to plan the planting schedule for the 2nd Medicine Valley in his mind. Coupled with Li Zuando's Medicine Valley, he would have 3 Medicine Valleys, which would inevitably lead to a significant increase in lifespan income in the future. Even though he had reached the 1st level of the Void Crossing realm, Guin still wouldn't mind having more lifespan. There must be many more levels above the Void Crossing realm, and the higher one goes, the more lifespan is needed. His goal was immortality, to climb to the peak of the immortal cultivation path. Standing on a flying sword, soaring through the world, Guin stood in the wind, carrying the dream of spring and autumn's longevity in his heart. When he returned to Mystic Valley, his brow furrowed. He controlled his sword to land, the flying sword following him into his storage bag. Not far away, Yen, who was weeding, saw him and immediately ran over. "Master, you're finally back. Yesterday, an elder came to our Medicine Valley to stay temporarily," Yi Yen reported first. Guin nodded and said, "I know, you continue with your work." He noticed the surrounding mountains and forests of Mystic Valley had flags hidden among the weeds. Clearly, it was a formation. First, he sensed the other's aura, then pretended not to notice the formation, walking toward the direction of the cultivator's aura, quickly observing his medicinal herbs along the way. Good heavens! 6 4th-grade medicinal herbs were missing. Guin's eyes instantly turned cold. The other's cultivation level was not simple, a cultivator of the Divinity transformation realm, but even if it was a Divinity transformation cultivator, anyone who dared to steal his herbs had to pay the price. Guin arrived at Xiaochuan's courtyard, where he saw someone alchemy. The pill furnace looked ancient, half the height of a person, emitting wisps of green smoke. The alchemist was an elder, hunched, short and chubby, with white hair tied into a bun at the back by a grass rope. Qiu Qianli, 2nd level Divinity Transformation 486/930/1050. After confirming that the other had no hidden cultivation, Guin immediately approached and asked, "May I know the senior's name and origin?" His tone was very abrupt, quite different from his usual attitude towards people. Qiu Qianli stood up, turned to Guin and laughed. "This old man's name is Qiu Qianli. I passed by this Medicine Valley and wanted to stay for a few days." Guin asked, "Is senior from the Supreme Sect?" Because Ji Xiaoyu was about to form a core formation, he had to doubt the other's identity. Usually, Divinity transformation cultivators wouldn't come to his Medicine Valley. The busy disciples noticed the commotion and all glanced toward the courtyard. They could sense that Qiu Qianli had an unusual background, so they were relieved when they saw Guin return. "What about you? Are you the owner of this Medicine Valley?" Qiu Qianli asked with a smile. Guin replied, "Yes, senior. Why don't you answer me?" Qiu Qianli shook his head and laughed, muttering to himself, "An individual cultivator in the Qi cultivation realm dares to talk to this old man like that." He suddenly squatted and struck the ground with his palm. Instantly, the ground trembled, and the flags hidden in the woods around them vibrated, releasing demonic Qi. The demonic Qi quickly rose, forming a demonic web that covered the entire Mystic Valley. Then the web turned transparent, as if nothing had happened. "What do you want to do?" Guin pretended to be panicked and asked. The disciples in the distance sensed something was amiss and immediately ran over. Xiaochuan and Yi Yen were the first to arrive, followed by Wuxin, Zhenqin, and Su Han. Others who arrived did not dare to get close, watching nervously from the courtyard's exterior. Su Han stood in front with a sword in hand, but from his trembling legs, it was clear he was very nervous. Zhenqin's face turned pale with fear, but she still stood in front of Guin, making him want to laugh. Such a silly girl. Qiu Qianli's right palm was enveloped in sinister demonic qi. He stood up slowly, showing a ferocious smile. Since the Valley Master has returned, this old man will no longer hide. If you want to live, then behave yourselves. Otherwise, this old man will skin you and extract your souls, leaving you to beg for life but unable to die. Feeling his terrifying aura, all the disciples were filled with dread. Wuxin gathered his courage and asked, "We are all servant disciples. Even if you refine our souls, it won't benefit you. Let's talk properly. What do you want us to do?" He was afraid Guan couldn't see through the other's cultivation, so he spoke first. Qiu Qianli sneered, "You're smart. From now on, stay in the valley and await my orders. This old man needs to use your medicine valley to refine elixirs. Don't think about escaping. My formation is invisible and colorless. Even core formation cultivators would turn into a pool of blood upon touching it." Everyone had seen the formation just now, so they believed his words. Qiu Qianli looked at Guan, sneering, "Valley Master, this old man now tells you, this old man is from the Wanyin Sect. What do you think?" The Wanyin Sect. Truly haunting. Guan had hardly killed anyone in his life, except for Fu Xiong, and everyone else was from the Wanyin Sect. Guan pretended to be frightened and gritted his teeth. "Please forgive my previous offense, Senior. As long as you don't harm my disciples, feel free to ask for anything, even refining my soul first." Hearing this, the disciples panicked but dared not speak out, fearing they would anger Qiu Qianli. Wuxin clenched his fists inside his sleeves, regretting, "If only I had practiced diligently, achieving greatness in cultivation, how could I let senior brother, Zhen Qin, Xiaochuan, Su Han, and Yi Yan had similar thoughts." Qiu Qianli laughed, a scornful laugh. Guan quickly said, "Senior, I have 5th grade medicinal herbs in my room, perfect for medicinal primer. Do you need them?" "Not bad. You are sensible. Go quickly." Qiu Qianli waved his sleeve. Guan immediately ran towards his building. Others watched Qiu Qianli warily, afraid he would act unpredictably. Qiu Qianli picked at his ear and then looked at Zhen Qin, laughing, "Little girl, come here and assist this old man." Seeing his sinister smile, Zhen Qin felt disgusted and more terrified. What should she do? Judging by the formation just now, no one in the valley could handle this demonic cultivator. Just as Zhen Qin was feeling uneasy, a purple-black figure appeared beside Qiu Qianli out of thin air. Qiu Qianli's pupils shrank, instinctively turning to look. So fast? How is this possible? Qiu Qianli was about to make a move, but the other's right hand, like a sword, pierced through his chest, lifting him in the air. His eyes widened, looking at the person below him in disbelief. This was a figure surrounded by dark purple flames, its true form indistinguishable, as if it came from the 9 netherworld. Wuxin, Zhen Qin, and the others were also terrified by the sudden appearance of this mysterious figure, retreating in unison. "Thou, and magical shadow divine skill of 1000 Autumn Pavilion," Qiu Qianli said tremblingly, his voice full of fear. He shockingly discovered he couldn't mobilize his spiritual power, the previous strike shattering his golden core, the other's domineering power repressing his primordial spirit within, unable to exit. The opponent must be above the divinity transformation realm. Using the great yin-yang transformation, Guan glanced at Wuxin. Wuxin seemed to realize something, his face changing drastically. Following that, Guan suddenly clenched his hand that pierced Qiu Qianli, terrifying sword qi erupting, instantly shattering Qiu Qianli's body, leaving only his primordial spirit hanging on Guan's arm, while his storage bag fell into Guan's other hand. Blood and flesh splattered. Wuxin and the others were also splashed, but they were too frightened to react, standing there dazedly. Qiu Qianli's primordial spirit trembled, but before he could finish, he was crushed by Guan's domineering power. Guan's figure then vanished. The next second, the sound of a door being smashed came from a distance, and Guan, holding the 5th grade tiger blood flower, leaped down from the balcony of his building. He quickly rushed to the courtyard where Wuxin and the others were, shouting loudly, "Senior, don't act recklessly." He jumped over the courtyard wall and came to Zhenqin's side, looking at the bloodstains all over the courtyard. He quickly turned to look at the disciples and saw that no one was missing, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. He asked nervously, "That demon, where did he go?" His voice was very low, as if afraid Qiu Qianli would hear it. Zhenqin seemed to wake up, screamed, and then grabbed Gu An's robes, trembling. "Master, he died." The other disciples also awakened, turning to look in other directions, afraid that mysterious demonic figure would reappear. It took Guan a while to understand what had just happened from their words. It's safe to say, acting is exhausting. Guan called the disciples to remain vigilant, not to relax. At the same time, he secretly exerted strength with his right foot, spiritual power spreading through the ground, destroying the invisible formation. Above Mystic Valley, a demonic curtain suddenly appeared, followed by the mysterious demonic formation starting to collapse, the demonic qi dissipating into thin air, as if it had never appeared, with autumn leaves falling from the mountaintop. "The formation is dissolved?" Yi Yan asked cautiously. Wuxin took a deep breath, looking at Guan. "Senior brother, let's talk somewhere else." Killing Qiu Qianli yielded 66 years of lifespan, not bad. Feeling cheerful, Guan pretended to look puzzled. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded in agreement. The two walked towards Gu An's building, while the other disciples gathered together, discussing what just happened. Inside the building, Wuxin closed the door, turned to Guan, gritting his teeth. "The one who acted earlier should be a great cultivator from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, probably sent by my father to protect me." Chapter 48. Yang with Primordial Skill, Void Crossing Realm 9th Layer. Looking at Wuxin's complex expression, Guan wanted to laugh, but years of acting experience kept him from breaking character. Gu An's expression constantly changed, from shock, to a sigh of relief, and finally to tension. Wuxin noticed his senior brother's changing expressions, feeling more awkward, but he did not regret revealing this matter. Since opening his heart last time, Wuxin felt that his senior brother had become the closest person to him, and there should be no secrets between them. "This matter must not be spoken about, or I won't be able to protect you." Guan took a deep breath and said seriously. Wuxin nodded solemnly, recalling the previous battle with a shiver of fear. Guan curiously asked, "Can you recognize the person from before, and what realm is he?" He wanted to probe the depth of Thousand Autumn Pavilion. Upon hearing this, Wuxin scratched his head and guessed, "I didn't see his true face, he might be at the Nascent Soul Realm." His movement technique was too fast. "I feel that a core formation realm cultivator wouldn't have such ability." Guan was stunned. "This naive kid." He sighed and said, "You say your father doesn't care about you, but look, he still sent someone to protect you." "He doesn't care about me indeed, but it might also be that he didn't want to lose face, or perhaps the person who acted was just here on a mission for Supreme Sect." Wuxin guessed. He wasn't moved by this, still harboring resentment towards his father. Afterward, Guan gave a few more instructions and then took Wuxin downstairs. Guan did not let the disciples clean the courtyard, but kept the scene to let Wuxin report to the inner sect's law enforcement hall the next day. All the disciples in the valley had witnessed the battle before, so it couldn't be hidden, and it was better to inform Supreme Sect in advance. He stood in front of Qiu Qianli's pill furnace, observing the medicinal liquid inside. He couldn't tell what kind of elixir Qiu Qianli was refining but decided to keep it for Supreme Sect to decide. That night, Guan came to 8 scenic caves. After feeding Sky Dragon with mutton as usual, he took out Qiu Qianli's storage bag. He emptied its contents and then destroyed the storage bag. He had to admit that a Divinity Transformation Realm cultivator was indeed rich. Just the spirit stones and spirit energy elixirs alone were a huge sum. He checked everything one by one, burning all the useless things to avoid being tracked down. He also removed Qiu Qianli's imprint from those magic artifacts, making them ownerless. In the end, he was left with a letter containing a blank piece of paper that needed to be read with divine sense, and moreover, only at the Divinity transformation realm could one peek into it. After some probing, he discovered why Qiu Qianli had come. It was for the Primordial Daoist Talisman. Qiu Qianli's task was to assist the Wanyin Sect spy in seizing the Primordial Daoist Talisman in the Outer Sect. Apart from Thousand Autumn Pavilion, Wanyin Sect also had many spies planted within Supreme Sect. Being entrusted to Qiu Qianli, that person's cultivation level must be high. Demon Path spies are truly pervasive. How many people, like himself before, had no choice? Guan lamented in his heart and then stood up to check the medicinal herbs in 8 scenic caves. The next morning, Wuxin took Tang Yu and Su Han to the Outer Sect. Guan instructed the other disciples to continue their usual work, be it herding sheep, weeding, or watering. By noon, the 3 returned quickly because they had ridden on a core formation realm cultivator's magic artifact, a huge redwood fan carrying dozens of people, including Yi Lan. When everyone landed, Guan went up to greet them. Leading the group was an elder of the law enforcement hall named Murong Ing. Murong Ing, core formation realm 3rd layer 268/503/908. Murong Ing wore a purple robe, tall and handsome, with black and white hair, exuding the aura of a superior in every gesture. After listening to Gu An's account of the incident, he nodded slightly and said, "You did well. We will now sweep this area thoroughly, not allowing any demon cultivators to lurk." Guan immediately expressed his thanks. The disciples of the law enforcement hall did not converse much with the valley disciples. They went to Xiaochuan's courtyard, witnessing the bloodstains on the walls and ground, all feeling a chill down their spines. Murong Ing approached Qiu Qianli's pill furnace, looked inside, and soon frowned. Meanwhile, Yi Lan came to Gu An's side to comfort him. Guan had asked Wuxin to find her first, as it would be easier to request the law enforcement hall's assistance with her intervention. So, upon hearing about the trouble in Mystic Valley, she couldn't wait to come. Half an hour later, Murong Ing took the pill furnace and called the disciples of the law enforcement hall to leave. Watching the figures of the departing law enforcement hall disciples, Zhen Qin couldn't help but look at Guan and ask, "Is it over just like that?" Guan never expected much from the law enforcement hall. He only wanted to report the incident so he wouldn't be labeled a demon path spy. "They will investigate. Just trust your martial Uncle Yi," Guan said with a smile. Zhen Qin thought it made sense. However, the law enforcement hall's attitude still aroused her determination. She secretly vowed to become an Outer Sect disciple as soon as possible. Qiu Qianli may have been just a disturbance for Mystic Valley, but for Guan, it was a warning. How many times has Mystic Valley faced such danger? This is not good. I need to improve my cultivation level. In the blink of an eye, 7 days quickly passed. That night, Guan quietly left Mystic Valley and sat down in a forest 100 miles away. He called up his attribute panel, focusing on Divine Wood Pure Yang skill. First, upgrade the cultivation technique. He immediately invested 10,000 years of lifespan. Eventually, Divine Wood Pure Yang skill completed an upgrade, becoming Yang Wood Primordial skill, and its achievement also reached the Mastery realm. Yang Wood Primordial skill also awakened a divine skill, which made Guan pleasantly surprised. He immediately activated the lifespan barrier to inherit the Yang Wood Primordial skill. An hour later, the inheritance was complete, and Guan understood the profoundness of the divine skill. This divine skill was named Yang Wood Boundless. It could inject spiritual power into the earth, forming Yang Wood that covered the land and could devour the essence energy of living beings, and even spiritual power. It was extremely terrifying, capable of covering 10,000 miles as long as the caster's spiritual power was sufficient. A very domineering divine skill, Guan really liked it. Guan continued to look at the cultivation level on the attribute panel. He planned to raise his cultivation level to the 9th level of crossing Void Realm. As for breaking through, he feared the commotion would be too large, especially since he only had a little over 20,000 years of lifespan left. He first invested 1,000 years of lifespan, successfully advancing from the 1st layer to the 4th layer of crossing Void Realm, which was quite good. However, after investing another 1,000 years of lifespan, his cultivation level only reached the 5th layer of crossing Void Realm. In the end, after calculating, he used a total of 7,500 years of lifespan, reaching the 9th layer of crossing Void Realm. He had a little over 13,000 years of lifespan left, so he stopped there. As the nature's spiritual energy poured into him, he began to carefully comprehend the mysteries within his body. He couldn't always rely on increasing his lifespan. He also wanted to establish his own understanding of cultivation. The nature's spiritual energy flowed into his body, gathering on his golden core, generating spiritual power, and nurturing his muscles, bones, and primordial spirit. His cultivation level continued to improve as a result. Even in the crossing Void Realm, the cultivator's golden core remained in the Dantian, and after reaching the crossing Void Realm, Guan could feel the importance of the golden core even more. This made him think of the golden core Dao in Daoist mythology. The core formation realm might have just laid the foundation, while the true mysteries of the golden core needed to be explored at higher realms, just like the spirit root. Guan always felt that cultivating a single spirit root to a certain stage would hit a wall. Immortals couldn't be all-powerful with just one attribute, could they? The primordial spirit and golden core were the same. The primordial spirit was the manifestation of the soul, allowing the cultivator to break free from the mortal constraints of the flesh. Guan wanted to try in the future if he could integrate the Yangwood primordial skill with other attribute skills to create a 5-element skill that perfectly matched his superior 5 elements heavenly spirit root. 2 hours later, Guan successfully reached the 9th layer of crossing Void Realm, draining the nature's spiritual energy. The outer sect would probably be alarmed again. This was also good, as Supreme Sect would certainly be more vigilant, increasing the pressure on demon path spies and improving Ji Xiaoyu's success rate in tribulation crossing. Guan secretly felt that he had also helped Ji Xiaoyu out. Sure enough, the next morning, while Guan was leading the disciples in their exercises, he saw many great cultivators flying over Mystic Valley, and the disciples were discussing the subsidence of spiritual energy from the previous day. From the 1st layer to the 9th layer of crossing Void Realm, the amount of spiritual energy consumed was comparable to, if not greater than, advancing from the 1st layer of Divinity transformation to the 1st layer of crossing Void Realm. Supreme Sect's outer sect experiencing 2 such events back-to-back would surely leave them in a tizzy. Guan intended to continue accumulating lifespan, so he wasn't worried about being discovered. Next was the grand development of Medicine Valley. In the bleak autumn wind, Mystic Valley lived a secluded life. Since the calamity of Qiu Qianli, the valley disciples had been cultivating more diligently. A month quickly went by. One day, Guan was studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles under a tree, with the white spirit rat napping nearby. It had grown as big as a fat dog. While reading the Ziwei Array Chronicles with one hand, he petted the white spirit rat with the other, feeling quite comfortable. Suddenly, Guan seemed to sense something, raising his eyes to look afar, in the direction of the inner sect. He felt the strong presence of a crossing Void Realm cultivator in battle. It seemed Ji Xiaoyu had successfully formed her core, and various demon path spies couldn't hold back and were now engaged in a fierce battle. Guan couldn't help but think of Jiang Qiong, hoping she wouldn't be reckless. With her cultivation level at the 1st layer of Nascent Soul Realm, it would be difficult to seize Ji Xiaoyu's golden core. The inner sect was far from the outer sect, and the disciples of Mystic Valley, unaware of the battle, continued their cultivation. As night fell, Guan could still feel the battle's presence in the distance, indicating how intense it was. Cold wind blew in from outside the window. Guan sat at his desk reading, when he heard footsteps outside. "Senior brother, may I come in?" Wuxin's voice came through. Guan responded, "Come in." Quickly, he switched the green hero travelogue in his hand to Cheng Xuandan's 100 Herbs collection. Wuxin pushed the door open, then closed it behind him. Walking to the desk, he saw the 100 Herbs collection in Guan's hand, secretly admiring his senior brother's dedication, his resolve growing even firmer. "My senior brother is so studious, I must help him." Guan looked up and asked, It's so late, what brings you here? Wuxin took a deep breath and said, Senior brother, you've been stuck at the 9th layer of energy cultivation realm for some time now, right? Guwen raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Are you not satisfied with your senior disciple position and now eyeing my position as Valley Master? Wuxin continued, Senior brother, actually I am a genius, but I have cultivated a divine skill that suppresses the growth of my cultivation level. This skill accumulates strength for a later burst. It has the profound ability to change fate. Chapter 49 Daoist Expansion Skill, Divine Power Collection. So, I'm actually a genius? Upon hearing Wuxin's words, Guwen almost burst into laughter. He chuckled and said, In my eyes, you've always been a genius. Are you planning to teach me your cultivation technique? Wuxin nodded and said, When I say genius, I mean compared to others in the valley. But compared to my brothers and sisters, my talent is quite ordinary. The technique I practice is called Daoist Expansion Skill, taught by a divine monk. Once I start cultivating this technique, my cultivation realm won't increase, but my cultivation will keep accumulating. I plan to unseal my realm before my time is up. By then, my spirit root qualification and lifespan will transform. However, once unsealed, the Daoist expansion skill will lose its effects. After hearing this, Guwen couldn't help but become interested in the Daoist expansion skill. What realm is that divine monk in? He asked curiously. Wuxin shook his head and said, I'm not sure about his cultivation level. He calls himself the Immortal Seeking Taoist. If he's a Taoist, why is he called a divine monk? He accepted tonsure and wears a kasaya. How could he be a Taoist? I modeled my appearance after his. He said I would have extraordinary chi fortune in the future and forcibly accepted me into tonsure. The scars on my head were left by him, and now I can't grow any hair. As he spoke, Wuxin felt wronged. He also wanted to be as handsome as Guwen and attract women. Guwen didn't press further and let Wuxin explain the Daoist expansion skill. He wanted to see how profound this Daoist expansion skill was. Wuxin began to explain the Daoist expansion skill earnestly. It took him a full hour to finish. The Daoist expansion skill was indeed profound. Its chi control method was extremely complex. From Guwen's cultivation levels perspective, the Daoist expansion skill concealed other mysteries. Senior brother, do you remember it? Or should I write it down for you tomorrow? Wuxin asked with concern. Guwen smiled and nodded. Sure. This technique sounds truly formidable. Thank you for your kindness. Let's rest for now. No need for thanks between us, Wuxin said with a smile. He was elated and felt he had finally helped his senior brother. With that, he turned and left. Once Wuxin went downstairs, Guwen began to practice the Daoist expansion skill. Wuxin worried that he wouldn't remember, so Guwen humored him to avoid revealing his current talent and cultivation level. In reality, unless the method was exceptionally unique, Guwen could remember it by hearing it just once. 3 days later, in the mountains and forests, Guwen was sparring sword techniques with Su Han. That day, Qiu Qianli caused trouble, and Su Han stood bravely with his sword at the front, which moved Guwen. He decided to teach him a few moves. Su Han initially had low expectations, thinking his master was just bored. But once they sparred, the outcome was entirely different from what he had anticipated. Guwen wielded a wooden sword, using simple steps and ordinary sword moves. Yet, he easily dismantled each of Su Han's moves. Su Han was greatly astonished, his esteem for Guwen soaring. After dozens of moves, Guwen flicked Su Han's sword out of his hand, sending it to the ground. Looking at the wooden sword hovering near his throat, Su Han swallowed nervously, stunned as he looked at Guwen. Guwen withdrew his sword and, with a smile, asked, "How was it?" "Remarkable," Su Han replied sheepishly. Guwen shook his head. "I didn't ask for your evaluation of me. Did you sense anything?" Su Han hesitated and then carefully recalled. Wait. He seemed to have realized something, his face changing drastically in surprise. He looked at Guwen and hesitantly asked, "Master, were you using moves from the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword? Guan nodded. That's right. My understanding of the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword isn't deep. Do you know why I could counter your sword moves? Why? Su-han asked. I'm faster than you. But? Do you feel I'm slower than you, yet I always counter your moves? Yes, Master, I really feel you're slower, but still, think carefully. I seem slow because you're watching me, but my eyes are on your sword. Before you strike, I've already judged your sword's trajectory. When you attack, I do too. As the defender, my sword covers less distance, so when our swords clash, I seem slower but can still catch up to you. Guan explained patiently. Su-han frowned, meticulously recalling their sparring. Su-han soon understood. Indeed, from the moment their swords rose, the outcome was decided. Looking up at Guan with admiration, Su-han sighed, Master, you are truly incredible. You became better than me at the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword after just looking at its manual once. Guan stepped closer and smiled. I've also practiced swordsmanship, so I understand better than you. But keep this to yourself. I have some grudges, and others shouldn't know I know swordsmanship. Touched, Su-han quickly knelt on one knee, raising his hand in vow. I swear never to reveal that Master knows swordsmanship. If I do, may I be struck by lightning and live a lonely life. Guan hastily helped him up, exasperatedly saying, No need to swear. Your word is enough for me. Despite his words, he was satisfied with Su-han's attitude. With his cautious nature, guiding Su-han in sword training was already risky. Su-han scratched his head, smiling sheepishly. Guan continued to instruct Su-han in swordsmanship. Though he didn't practice the Hateful Heaven Divine Sword diligently, his mastery of the Taizong Divine Shocking Sword made it easy to give pointers. After half an hour, Guan left the forest, leaving Su-han to train alone. He went to the valley entrance, his eyes locking on a wooden railing in a garden where someone stood, accompanied by the servant disciple Yang Min Jiangqiong. How dare this rascal openly enter Mystic Valley in broad daylight? Guan silently cursed. He had noticed Jiangqiong approaching Mystic Valley and thus ended his session with Su-han early. He hadn't stopped Jiangqiong earlier because Jiangqiong approached by flying on his sword, showing no effort to conceal himself. Guan walked briskly over and addressed Yang Min. You can go now. I'll entertain her. Relieved, Yang Min quickly left. Jiangqiong turned to Guan and smiled. Your disciple is quite shy. Guan replied, Let's talk upstairs. Jiangqiong didn't object and followed him up to the loft. Once inside, Guan closed the door and softly asked, Martial Master, why are you here, and during the day no less? Jiangqiong took a seat, then waved her sleeve, sending 4 pieces of talisman paper to the doors and windows. She picked up the teapot on the table and poured herself some tea, saying nonchalantly, What are you worried about? I'm still an inner sect disciple of the Supreme Sect. Before my severe injury, my identity wasn't exposed. I hid because I had enemies. But over these years, I found out they're dead. Guan sat down across from her and curiously asked, Were your enemies from the Supreme Sect? To be precise, they were like me, demon path spies, Jiangqiong said with a mocking smile, emphasizing the words, demon path spies. Guan wanted to ask more, but Jiangqiong waved her hand, No more questions. I plan to stay in your Medicine Valley for a while until things calm down. What do you say? Guan asked, frowning, What happened? He could tell Jiangqiong was severely injured, merely putting on a brave face. Jiangqiong's eyes turned complicated as she said softly that Ji Xiaoyu isn't simple. Just entering the core formation realm, she avoided my attack. In a moment of my distraction, a nascent soul cultivator from the Ji family severely injured me. Did you strike? Guan asked, instantly tense. Jiangqiong rolled her eyes at him and said irritably, I didn't reveal my true self, thanks to the demon shadow divine skill I taught you. You needn't worry. Guan sighed in relief. He asked, Did anyone take Ji Xiaoyu's Primordial Daoist Talisman? Jiangqiong shook her head and said, No one succeeded. With the Qilin step, even nascent soul cultivators can't easily approach her. The G family members and Supreme Sect cultivators blocked any Divinity transformation level demon path cultivator or stronger. The Supreme Sect elders are indeed powerful. She seemed to recall something, her face showing a hint of fear. Hearing that Ji Xiaoyu was fine, Guwen felt relieved. Both of them surviving was, in his view, the best outcome. Guwen looked at Jiang Qiong, thinking about how to comfort her. Jiang Qiong gazed at him, smiling slyly. You didn't tip off the Ji family, did you? Guwen quickly shook his head. How could I? I'm not that kind of person. Really? Really? Does Martial Master want me to swear? Guwen said seriously. Su Han had just sworn to him earlier, and now he had to swear to Jiang Qiong? Jiang Qiong studied him, tutaying in amazement. There's no need. Actually, I wanted you to report to the Ji family. Guwen was puzzled, not understanding her meaning. Jiang Qiong took a sip of tea and smiled. Seeing you at the Ji mansion gate, I came up with an idea, through you, to tip off the Ji family, making them very vigilant. Only then can there be a fierce battle once Ji Xiaoyu's core formation is complete. Too bad, I didn't expect you to be such a person. I misjudged you. Jiang Qiong feigned a pained look inside. Guwen remained silent. Jiang Qiong's tone softened as she smiled, but this shows you favor me more, and I didn't care for you in vain. From now on I will treat you well. Congratulations, you've won your Martial Master's heart. Martial Master, please don't talk nonsense. Huh, look at you, bound by the rules of the righteous path, can't even take a joke. Jiang Qiong covered her mouth, laughing, leaving Guwen feeling helpless. Just then, Jiang Qiong reached into her storage bag at her waist and placed a piece of bronze on the table. The bronze piece was square with chipped edges, engraved with densely packed tiny characters. Jiang Qiong's eyes burned with eagerness. This is my true purpose for going to the Ji mansion. It's the Ji family's divine power collection, containing one of their 10 great divine powers. It was a gift from the Ji family's clan leader to Ji Xiaoyu. This item requires the direct bloodline of the Ji family to activate. Of course, someone above the divinity transformation realm can forcibly break the restriction within. Passing down Ji Xiaoyu's Qilin step and this divine power collection, it seems they're preparing her to join the Holy Land. Divine power collection? Guwen's eyes couldn't help but gaze at the bronze piece, filled with curiosity. Jiang Qiong pushed the bronze piece towards Guwen, saying, Keep this for now. Hide it in the 8 scenic caves. When I get the direct bloodline of the Ji family's essence blood, it'll come to you. Keeping this on me is risky. Guwen looked at the bronze piece on the table, blinking. Chapter 50 Heaven and Earth Path Gang, Tianya Valley. Guwen put the bronze fragment into his storage bag and asked, Are the Ji family's 10 divine abilities really that strong that even a genius like you from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion would be so envious? Jiang Qiong glanced at the wooden cabinet beside her and said softly, Very strong. Moreover, they are not something you can master just because you want to. In the Ji family, anyone who can master even one divine ability, regardless of their status, will get the Ji family's special cultivation and be moved into the main family. In the Taizong dynasty, all the sects combined would struggle to overturn the Supreme Sect. The same goes for the clans. The disparity is vast. 3 major clans reign supreme over the dynasty, one of which is the Ji family. Listening to her, Guwen suddenly suspected that there might be spies from the Ji family within the Thousand Autumn Pavilion as well. Indeed, it was the demon path. Following her words, Guwen asked, Who are the other 2 families? The Zhou and Gu families. Why not the Li family? The Li family is just a puppet. Jiang Qiong spoke with disdain for the Li family, which gave Guwen a new understanding of the Taizong dynasty. The royal family isn't the strongest family? Indeed, though Li Xuando's lifespan limit was strong, it couldn't compare with Ji Xiaoyu. Ji Xiaoyu was currently the most terrifyingly talented person Guwen had encountered. The Gu Zong was probably related to the Gu family, and the void-crossing realm mastery evident how deep the Gu family's strength ran. As for the Zhou family, Guwen hadn't come into contact with them yet. Taking this opportunity, Guwen continued to inquire about the world of immortal cultivation from Jiang Qiong, who answered everything one by one. After about half an hour, Jiang Qiong grew impatient. "Why do you have so many questions? Quickly find me a place to stay." Jiang Qiong glared at him. It was the first time Guwen heard her refer to herself as old lady. It seemed her injuries were becoming unbearable. Thus, Guwen took Jiang Qiong downstairs and personally arranged a place for her to stay. After she settled down, Jiang Qiong began to cultivate her energies to heal and didn't come out of her room again. Zhen Qin, on the other hand, found Guwen and curiously asked about Jiang Qiong's identity. Guwen only mentioned that she was an inner sect disciple, which was enough to awe Zhen Qin. Soon, the news of an inner sect disciple arriving at Mystic Valley spread quickly among all the disciples, and they also heard that the inner sect disciple was very beautiful. Late at night, Guwen entered the 8 scenic caves alone and buried the bronze fragment in the ground. Luo Hun's words excited Yi Yen, and he promptly thanked him. Luo Hun nodded slightly and then walked around, observing the medicinal herbs planted in Medicine Valley. After about half an hour, Guwen found him and said they were ready to leave. Luo Hun raised his hand, removing the long gun from his back, which gleamed in his hand with golden light, drawing the disciples' attention. "Show off," Guwen thought to himself. Luo Hun leaped into the air, stepping on the long gun, and glanced towards Guwen in the snow below, saying, "Come up." Guwen immediately jumped up, landing behind him, standing on the gun shaft. Luo Hun spurred his spiritual power, and the long gun carried them swiftly away, crossing the mountains and leaving a long streak against the snowy sky. Disciples in the valley gathered and curiously discussed Luo Hun's identity. The sky was cold, and Gu Anna's black hair was blown backward, revealing a fair and handsome face. "Not bad, your control over spiritual power is very fine, you stand very stably." Luo Hun's voice sounded, his back facing Guwen, his tone tinged with admiration. Guwen responded casually, "I usually enjoy sword control techniques, so I have studied it. Although your cultivation is low, having caught the Emperor's eye, you must have some outstanding qualities. When you reach Medicine Valley, feel free to do your best, I will protect the valley." Luo Hun began talking about Medicine Valley, and Guwen listened carefully. According to Luo Hun, this Medicine Valley was very important to the Emperor. The Emperor planned to cultivate a group of geniuses within the valley for future use. If Guwen performed well, he could also obtain a batch of precious medicinal herbs. Guwen sensed that Luo Hun had deep respect for Li Xiandao, which made him curious about the prisoner brand on Luo Hun's face. Li Xuando's Medicine Valley was called Tianya Valley. Though near the Supreme Sect, it was thousands of miles from Mystic Valley, located in a demon beast-infested mountainous area. Guwen suggested establishing a teleportation array in Tianya Valley to connect it to Mystic Valley, but Luo Hun rejected the idea, stating that Tianya Valley's existence must remain unknown to the Supreme Sect. This made Guwen want to complain. "You've planted it near the Supreme Sect, yet you want to keep it hidden?" But then he thought of the 8 scenic caves, guessing that Li Xiandao likely set up high-rank formations. To accommodate Guwen, Luo Hun flew at a moderate speed. Night fell, but he continued flying. Guwen sensed that this area's forests were filled with demon energy, with creatures comparable to the core formation realm. Sure enough, suddenly, a third-tier demon bird attacked from behind, but Luo Hun struck out with a punch, his spiritual power forming a golden spear shadow that tore the demon bird apart, capturing its demon core with ease. After showing his power, no other demons dared to disturb them. Chapter 51. Zhou Tongyu, the strongest in a century hunting demons? Guwen immediately became interested upon hearing this. As they descended continuously, the terrain of Tianya Valley appeared amidst the snowy mist. From mid-air, It looked like a vast green ocean. Streams flowed into the valley from all directions, and at the edges of the valley, 2 small rivers could be seen flowing underground. Soon, Luo Hun landed with Guwen, and he began wrapping his long spear with a cloth. From now on, you are the Valley Master. Do whatever you wish and instruct me at any time. Luo Hun said. Guwen nodded, directly taking out the Heavenly Residence sword, and said, build a few pavilions in the peripheral area while I clear the weeds. Luo Hun's eyes fell on the Heavenly Residence sword scabbard. His pupils suddenly dilated, and he immediately knelt down, saying in a deep voice, Luo Hun greets the Master of Heavenly Residence sword. Guwen purposely took out the Heavenly Residence sword, fearing Luo Hun might not take him seriously. The effect was excellent. What are you doing? Quickly rise. Guwen feigned panic and hurriedly helped Luo Hun up. After standing up, Luo Hun's eyes were filled with complexity. He muttered, I never expected His Majesty would give you the Heavenly Residence sword. Guwen asked in surprise, why such a big reaction? Luo Hun replied, Taizong has 3 Emperor swords. Seeing the sword is like seeing the Emperor. They are the Heavenly Inquiry, Heavenly Residence, and Heavenly Punishment. His Majesty holds the Heavenly Punishment sword, while the Crown Prince has the Heavenly Inquiry sword. Without His Majesty's permission, no one can possess the sword. Hence, seeing the sword is like seeing the Emperor. Upon hearing this, Guwen suddenly realized that Li Ya's status in Li Xuando's heart was very high, comparable to the Crown Prince's. If Li Xiandao didn't agree, it would be hard for Li Ya to inherit the Heavenly Residence sword. But this sword is now in his hands. Guwen wondered if Li Xiandao had other plans? Guwen habitually considered the worst scenarios, so he thought Li Xuando's intentions were not simple. After all, an emperor's heart is as deep as the sea. I see, then let's get to work. Guwen responded. Luo Hun had no objections, but he couldn't help but look at the Heavenly Residence sword a few more times. Soon after, he saw Guwen using the Heavenly Residence sword to clear weeds, which made him hesitant to speak. Luo Hun struggled for a while before eventually turning away. An hour later, the array steels around Tianya Valley were activated. Each steel burst out blue light, rising into the sky, then converging in the air to form a semicircular light shield covering the entire Tianya Valley, which then turned transparent. After activating the array, Luo Hun began building the pavilions. I haven't written the final volume of Investiture of the Gods yet, Guwen said. Gu Yu, disappointed, walked to the table and sat down, taking out a stack of books and a token from his storage bag. This is your Valley Master token. Your Medicine Valley is between the outer sect and the inner sect, less than 100 miles from the outer city. For someone in the Foundation establishment realm like you, it's not a hassle to travel back and forth. These books are my father's life experiences written down. You can refer to them. My father said you don't have to stick to the facts. You can adapt them or even create stories based on his experiences. Gu Yu explained with a playful look, hinting at Guwen with his eyes. Guwen placed the teacup in front of him and picked up the Valley Master token. Unlike the bronze token of Mystic Valley, this token was silver-white with several layers of restrictions within it. It'll take you to the Medicine Valley later. If you get lost, just inject your divine sense into the token, and it will guide you. Gu Yu drank a cup of tea and continued speaking. Guwen nodded eagerly, excited to see his new Medicine Valley. Gu Yu seemed to remember something and said, Oh, when you write about me, include Zhou Tongyu. Write that he is the strongest genius of the young generation in the immortal cultivation world, but he especially admires me and follows my lead. Gu En's face twitched. That's not appropriate. I'm afraid writing that will cause trouble. Whatever you want, just ask and it'll satisfy you. It's not about the price. 100 top-grade spirit stones. If he sees it, he'll definitely investigate me. 1,000 top-grade spirit stones. This is all my savings. How about a homophone? Upon hearing this, Guyu raised an eyebrow. Sure, but you can only change one character. Deal. Guan agreed but wouldn't slander Zhou Tongyu in the book. He considered making them rivals who admire each other, ensuring not to offend either party. He could tell Guyu didn't harbor true enmity towards Zhou Tongyu. Otherwise, he would depict Zhou Tongyu as a small minion, not praise him as the strongest genius. Guyu probably just felt jealous. Making them brothers who occasionally competed would likely please Guyu. After a short rest, the two set off, controlling their swords to leave Mystic Valley.